Almighty Creator, guide my mind, guide my heart to be in alignment with your will. Let them see none of me. Let you take total control of my mind and soul. It is so. That's appropriate to begin, because we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of things. One is going to definitely be done, and that's what my brother Sigmar had asked, which is going to take us back to the basics, like a kid and play song. But in keeping with that theme, we're also going to talk a little bit about the origins of hip-hop and the old school. We're going to go down through the golden age, as I believe it was Sister Janine, I believe, is who asked me that. And just a couple of big shout outs. A big shout as always to Ms. Nice for having been so nice. And I just ask that you keep me in prayer, and don't take your wise counsel away from here. And also Wendy Lynn, my friendly friend, to my main man, Cross Man, again and again and again, to Benny Blanco, to my brother Nick. Don't worry, we're gonna get it up. We're going to definitely get the teaching that has been downloaded to you up and loaded. Believe it. And out in well, on the other coast, where they be doing the most, my sister Lala, my sister Joanne, brother Mike and Saginaw, and just all of those who support Chua Yahshua Ministries. We're going to try to make this a good one for you guys. And yes, for all of you who have spoken out, I've heard your cries, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the old format of saying it long and saying it strong, if you don't think that's wrong. So just bear with me, and we're going to try to knock out two birds with one stone. First, hip-hop, and then we're going to go back to the basics and just run through some questions that I know have been in a lot of people's minds. Now, how am I qualified to speak on hip-hop? Well, I've had a long and extensive journey down the road that hip-hop is designed to take a young man on who was in the prime of his years during the golden age, or the golden era. And I said it with the R at the end for a reason. But the so-called golden era that produced Boogie Down Productions and Slick Rick and X-Clan and PE, NWA. Do we even have to speak on NWA? I'm just, I'm taking some notes, because all of this is just kind of downloading to me right now as I woke up with my hood on, and I thought about the hoodie and the meaning of the hoodie and how it's become such a universal part of hip-hop. We saw it featured prominently in the So What You Saying video and in the Headbangers, which was also an EPMD production. EPMD and Eric B. and Rakim had a little thing they're going on for a minute, and so did Big Daddy and Rakim. We're going to talk a little bit about those things. We're going to talk about them in a way, again, I try to do the best I can with what I have, and most of what I have is just knowledge of the math. And so without any lights and smoke bombs and special effects, they want effects. We're going to try to run down through this and take it to you in a way that has not been done yet. And that's always the goal. Not just the new school, but the next. Leaders of the new school. Leaders of the new age. UMCs. Who else represented that era? Fushnikins. That's really the era when I really started making. I was making music before that. I was making music back in the Fat Boys and Run DMC era. I made my first demo with my cousin Larry Clark, one of the sons of my mom's first cousins, and we made a demo called The Cool Nerds. I was really into what KRS-One was doing and bringing on the scene around '86, and I was really into the intelligent rapper. I was really into that. I even liked the educated rapper from UTFO. That was and DMC was my favorite from Run DMC. So I was into the guys that I felt put more smarts behind their lyrics, for lack of a better term. So I began writing and doing pause tape demos and all of those things, and then as soon as I got me a little gig at a Sibley shoe store in the 11th grade, I began to pay for studio time. I bumped into Jerry Flynn, who was, well, a partner of mine from Ohio Street. Interesting. 2 blocks away from where I stayed on North Line, where, ironically, Big Sean came from the same street, ironically. But anyway, my partner two blocks down, we used to always walk to school together, and he turned me on to Jerry Flynn. And Jerry Flynn had a recording studio that was at the time, the leading underground rap studio in Detroit, and it was for some years. And so I began making my demos and doing my thing down there. And so that's my background in short. We don't have to go long into it because I've done videos where I went more extensively into that. But just in case you haven't seen those, just to give you a little brief synopsis, if you want more, there's more available. So we're not going to hold everybody up because of what you may have missed. No disrespect. But we're going to keep it moving. So hip-hop. Hip-hop took the world by storm. It took me by storm as a young man. It changed my thinking. It changed my way of dress. It changed the way that I spoke forever. It changed the way that I cut my hair. It changed the way that I wore soul coverings, what we call shoes. It changed my entire perspective of soul coverings. The bottom of your foot is called your soul. A Jamaican brother, a Jamaican bandit. Wow, the Most High is really, thank you, Father. Lead, Abaya, lead. But Jamaican Bandit was a executive producer in Detroit who had that bread, and he tried to do some rapping himself, but it wasn't really laying like that. But he had the bread to put out other people, and he used to be down at the studio a lot of times. He was really from Jamaica, and he was really balling, and he was, at that studio we met a lot of people that was balling, especially during that time. We're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, when money was flowing, everything was fine, and lots of brothers had Uzis and lots of brothers had knives. But he was down there quite often, paying for his artists to get their work done, and I was an in-house engineer / producer at the time. I was that from 19 up to 30. Yeah, I started working there at 19. I was recording there just on and off from 16 to 19, and I was there so much, and it was the opinion of the owner and of the other engineers there that I was good enough to be a in-house engineer producer. I had the desire to learn everything about the studio. So anyway, Jamaican Bandit used to tell us all kind of stories about weird, what we thought was weird things concerning certain spiritual beliefs and disciplines. And I was wide open to those things at that time, knowing that my father and grandfather had said that my paternal roots went back to Trinidad, and that they themselves had delved into some alternative spiritual beliefs quite deeply, very deeply. And so Jamaican Bandit would tell us different stories. One story he told us was about the soles of the feet, and he said, if I could imitate him decently, rest in peace. He ended up getting shot up. He said, peace and blessings be upon him. He said, yeah, he said, them doctors, he said, them white man, they know how to read the bottom of your baby's foot, and they can tell by the sole of the foot. That's why it's called a soul. They can tell by the sole of the foot what the baby destiny going to be, And I remember me and Jerry looking at each other like, that's ill, but that's real, We just felt something about that. But I said that to say, isn't it interesting how gym shoe wearing gym shoe for playing. Gym shoe wearing became a big, huge thing because of hip hop. Prior to that, I heard you. Oh, well, that's because of breakdancing. We're gonna deal with that too. Let's deal with the elements too. Breakdance, graffiti, rapping, DJing. DJing going first. Then breakdancing. Rapping was really the last manifestation I've heard a brother say. Now, again, maybe if I feel so led, I'll call my brother Ron in the Bronx to add on to some different things, so this don't just seem like a guy from Detroit trying to tell you about hip hop, right? But what I know. But not to get off the gym shoes just yet. Gym shoes and Arrested Development. Y'all like to see my pad sometime, okay? Gym shoes and Arrested Development, and I spell it like that on purpose. Y'all know I know how to spell, right? Okay? And when I say Arrested Development, I'm not talking about Speech and them, who won many Grammys. And Grammys mean whammies. You don't get Grammys unless you're down with the hookup. Yes, we're going to jam. Oh, Ted, he's gonna jam for you. Please believe it. But gym shoes became the thing. When Run DMC broke with My Adidas, it was official. But prior to that, yes, because of breakdancing, we saw a lot of colorful gym shoes. Your feet was in the air, flying through the air, and that's what we were told. Now again, it's things that you're told and things you're not shown. So we're not game goofy goobers. We don't simply believe what we're told, especially when the source wants you to believe. You know, that's me too. Especially when when someone gets ready to tell you something, they have an agenda. My agenda at the end of this is to show you that hip-hop also belongs with the rest of the things that we've been exploring in the old school, as also being part of the Illuminati, quote-unquote, songwriter secret, and having its origin in the Luciferian mind control program. That's the goal. So when you see other people's explanations of hip-hop, their goal may be to cause you to think that everything is all good, even where it ain't. But we're going to put some paint where it ain't. And we're going to deal with some things that is not so commonly spoken. That's where you can find the truth. Things not so commonly spoken. And yes, I'm going to be contending with the heat, with the heater. Because I'm in the basement. How appropriate for hip-hop. I'm underground. Always been underground. Not digital. Well, I guess I'm digital underground for real now, huh? Somebody help me. Have mercy. We're going to push out power. We're going to pop when we talk about hip-hop. So yes, it don't stop. The gym shoe thing. We call them gym shoes in Detroit. New York, they call them sneakers. Let's jam. Let's jam. They call them sneakers in New York. Why did they call them sneakers? Well, we can imagine that has something to do with the crime element that was strong in the Big Apple, especially during those times. The crack and the dope fueled late 80s, mid to late 80s, and early 90s. It really, started in the late 70s, because dope was brought in as a thing in the late 70s. And no, we're not going to leave gym shoes yet. But dope was brought in as a thing in the late 70s to infiltrate community groups and organizations. Absolutely. That was its purpose. There had to be a slowing down of what had gotten out of hand. Many will say that the community groups like the Community Restoration in Progress, I believe was the original meaning of CRIP, and the Bloods, which meant, my blood, my family. Those and the Blackstone Rangers in Chicago and the Black Spades in New York. These was all pro-black groups, offshoots of the Black Panther momentum. And that momentum had gotten out of hand. Some people will say that it was started October 31st because, or on or around Devil's Night and Halloween, because of the fact that the government, the CIA, actually put Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton on that tip. Some people will say that. There's also the possibility that what the devil meant for bad, God meant for good. And that power day that the pagans have claimed and renamed, because the devil did not create October 31st, nor did he create the energy that pagans use in order to take advantage of the high energy days. You know, especially October 31st being one of those. And then we're coming up upon another one, as a matter of fact, at the end of April. But you know, when you're strong in Taurus, which is the reflection sign, quote unquote, of Scorpio, the equal opposite. So those two times are supposed to be strong in the occult, strong in occult understanding, which means the hidden understanding. People hear the occult and they think of cult and culture, and yes, all of those things have etymological commonalities. All of those things do indeed. However, we must also understand that when the word occult is used properly, it's in place of to say the hidden. The hidden does not necessarily mean the bad. Scripture will tell you that it is the glory of God, quote unquote, to conceal a matter, and the glory of kings, quote unquote, to reveal it. And again, we're not going to get caught up in semantics, because if you think, you know, I don't know my wordplay, you need to think again. But so, and you know, that's not egotistical. All things to the glory of the Most High, without whom I would be nothing and no one, and would have no knowledge whatsoever. My game would be nowhere, and my brain would be nowhere. But you know, he took me through the 720, the 360 degrees of the light and the 360 degrees of the dark. And I'm not talking about drinks, light and dark. Somebody feeling me, light and dark. But let's get back to the gym shoes. Okay, so gym shoes was a big part of it. The whole dress, from the soles to the crown. You began to wear, oh, why that brother don't grow out his hair? You began to, you know, okay, we'll deal with it, whatever. But one thing at a time. We began to wear certain types of hats. Now, I can remember the old school, my grandfather really getting on me, because he saw the changes that it was making in my behavior. He saw how it was making me look like a goofy goober. Yes, indeed. The dress was designed to make you look like a goofy goober. Look back at your old pictures. You know it. You know it. Why are people embarrassed when they see their old pictures of themselves? Partially because they didn't have the right self-esteem and whatnot, and all that showing in the eyes and in the countenance of the face. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when we get to fraternities and sororities. Self-esteem and whatnot. Hip-hop did quite a number on creating another you and giving that other you a lot of pride. From I'm proud to be black, y'all, on down. And Run DMC, from the album, what's the name of the album? What color was the album cover? Let's do some trivia. You want to see if I'm equipped. Let me see if you equipped. It was red and green. The stop and go duality, the high end and the low end of the spectrum of color vibration. Raising Hell was the name of the album. Run DMC tore it up with that album. They had King of Rock. That did a little something. Did a lot of something. Look at the video for King of Rock and tell me they're not on top of the chessboard floor when they're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, which was a prophetic video because they ended up getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is induction into a secret society. Well, not so secret society, but an exclusive brotherhood. Can we say that? Well, we're going to jam a little bit. And yes, as you can already tell, this might be 3 hours by the time we through with this. Have mercy. because I'm letting the roar be the guide. I'm freestyling. That's what freestyling is. Freestyling is letting the spirit be the guide. Freestyling, rhyme wise, people say, well, freestyle is like freestyle swimming. That don't mean that you don't have a plan of what you're gonna do, but you have so many rhymes in your memory bank. You can pull parts from this and part from that, some of it off the top of your head. Freestyling and off the top of the head used to be different. Used to be two different things. Bismarck, he had a song called Off the Top of My Head. I bought the tape. I used to buy tapes like every time I could. I got an allowance at one point for doing dishes and taking out the trash. You know, a little lightweight jamming, $20 allowance. But that $20 would go toward buying me some hip hop music, and I could buy 714. I could buy 2 albums per week, and I was buying at least 2 albums per week. And if I could get a couple dollars more, I could buy 3, because at that time you could go to Aspen Records on Wyoming in Detroit, and I passed it every day walking home from Bobian Middle School, and I go in there every day and just look at the album covers, look at the back of the album covers, read the back of the album covers, think of what I'm finna buy next. But I digress. So anyway, the gym shoe thing and the chapeaus, the hats that we was wearing, the caps. Bust a cap because it's all about survival of the fittest. But yeah, the caps, the Dobbs that we was wearing, the Stets that we was wearing, the baseball teams with the logos that we was wearing, the starter jackets with the star on them that we was wearing, satin at that, Satan starter jackets. Somebody feelings is gonna be hurt. And yes, the gym shoes with the clownish laces, the big fat laces, sometimes unlaced, oftentimes unlaced. Like I said, we called them gym shoes in Detroit, and a lot of other places I know they did. We didn't never say sneakers, but there was a famous gym shoe store at Northland Mall, which was where everybody that used to ball used to go, and you know, those that didn't too. But well, on the west side, on the east side, it was Eastland, but Northland Mall had a store. I'm sure Eastland might have too. East Siders, bring it in. But they had a mall called Sneakers and Cleats. Excuse me, they had a store called Sneakers and Cleats, and Imperial Sports and Foot Locker. Them was the main places where you would get your jimmies. People would say jimmies. You know, before jimmies had to do with Jimmy hats, we were saying jimmies for your gym shoes here in Detroit. So gym shoes was for playing, to keep you in a childlike frame of mind. Also, all of the gym shoes, the symbols on the shoes, especially back then, you had lottos, you had Elese, you had Fila, which is backwards is Alif, which is the first letter of the Arabic alphabet, and Aleph also in Hebrew. You know, Hebrew and Arabic both Aramaic at the root, but Aleph and Fila, they used to say, was a dog that was used to chase the slaves. That's what people would say. And I remember they would say that troop. What kind of troop? What army was you a member of? That's like Pac saying, "To my soldiers." Soldiers for what? Thug life. You know, it was going on back then. LL was a prototype of Pac. When he said that in when he alludes to that, and when he said that in something like a phenomenon, when he alluded to that there, it was not far off. If you know somebody from that age and from that era. Again, I graduated from high school in 1991. So that meant I was in prime teenage years in 88 and 89. So I remember this stuff like yesterday. The so-called sign that I'm under is supposed to be very connected to childhood. It's one of the young signs. The older signs are supposed to be the colder signs, the colder weather signs. You came out in a colder season, later in life, later in the season, and you have more of an affinity with the elder. And they say that the first sign, especially I'm of one of the first two and three signs, is newborn, toddler, and teenager, being Gemini. You know, but again, I digress, because I did a whole teaching on that. If you want to know where I stand on that, go back and look at the teaching. Don't get to getting typewriter tough with me. Okay, we on same teams. Okay, but we know these things are not created by the enemy as much as they are controlled, and they are what's the word I'm looking for? Distorted by the enemy. He distorts. He can control something once he distorts it and give you a false version of something that the Creator has created. And that is the fact that the Creator makes everything come into season. To everything turn, there is a season. Ecclesiastes. Don't play with me, baby. Don't play with me. Hear me now, believe me later. Okay. Please believe it. So the shoes, self-explanatory. I did a joint on Nikes and Newports. We know about the symbol. We know that the symbols of certain things that we wear today, as researcher Al Neal said so eloquently on the Prophecy Club, I advise that you look at that while it's still up. Some things they will be pulling very soon. But Al Neal on the Prophecy Club talked about how he made the statement that if a peasant from the days of way back could see half of the signs and symbols that we see around us, they would run screaming, because they would recognize that they're in a world that is saturated by people that promote witchcraft and don't even care. So the gym shoes that you spending so much money buying for your son, or you, son, the gym shoes that you spend so much money on in order to not be an outcast, in order to be part of the in crowd. I'm part of the in crowd. Yep, jazz is involved. We got the jazz. We got the jazz. We're going to go down through all of that. We got the jazz. Jazz go along with funk and boogie. These are all words that have negative connotations at the root of their etymology. Excuse me. And there's some rude things we can do if we move the vowel around in jazz. And we're really looking at Yaz, which is also a birth control thing, birth control pill, right? And Yaz, because Y is J. Okay. We're gonna get off into it. Yaz, okay. Also Z is S, so Yaz is yes, and Jis, and Jizz, and Yiz. But jazz has to do with talking all that jazz. What does that mean? Talking all that mess, talking all that nonsense. And to some people who did not appreciate jazz, I wasn't one of those people. But to some people who never appreciated jazz, they was kind of right and kind of wrong. They was wrong in what they could not see, but right in what they could. They would say it sounds like a bunch of nonsense. The order, the freestyle nature of it, the man doest thou willness of it all. A person that likes jazz usually has that way of thinking, where they're really into, man, let me do my own thing. And so there was a period of time when jazz and hip-hop married. And some people in the music community were used to help create a Hegelian dialect, where there were two opposing sides that were both controlled by the same middle. The goal was to get them both to that same middle. The two opposing sides, you had one side saying, hey, we're young and, we appreciate jazz and, we just want to give homage to our elders. Now, this is all game. This is all game. Come off a Triple G status. This is all game. And the other side says, well, y'all not really respecting our art form like you should, so we really don't want y'all messing with it. Which causes us in the middle to say, oh, well, let us in. Let us in. By the hair on your chinny chin chin. We want to be a part of it too. When in reality, that's already what they wanted you to do. They, being the Illuminati, the controllers, the mind controllers, if you will, behind both sides. So in the end, you had, you ended up having Tribe Called Quest and the whole native tongue era. But we jumping around like House of Pain. But we're gonna come back. And yes, the white rap era, maybe we'll talk about that too. White rappers wanted in, and all were to to pave way for Minan or Eminem. Minaim, backward. Hi, my name is Minaim, backward, right? Which is me name, my name, backward. Can I have fun sometimes? I'm not jamming. I ain't jamming yet. I'm not jamming. Don't start none, won't be none. I'm finna start some. Okay, so I done said four or five times about the hats. You've already went through a million, you know, but that's how it's supposed to flow also. The spirit is supposed to, we share the same God spark, what they call the Ruach, or others call the Holy Spirit. We share that same thing. So without having to explain it all the way out, there's a way that you should, without a doubt, catch it when I push it out. And that's been pushed out already. You've already gone down through the caps. Feel free, add on to this page, y'all. Put your comments down. What caps are you thinking about? Are you thinking about the Bulls cap, how the Bulls era was so big? What about the Bad Boys hat? Detroiters, y'all remember the Bad Boys t-shirt and hat? See, you can't touch this. With the hammer on the back, and on the front, you can't touch this, or on the front, the skull and crossbones. I used to love those t-shirts. I thought it was so hard. I had a hat and a t-shirt to match. I know there's pictures somewhere of me with my hat on and my t-shirt, rocking a Skull and Bones hat and a Skull and Bones t-shirt to support Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn. Isaiah and Magic doing the Boule kiss before every finals game. The passing of the guard from the old school Boule Magic with the Magic Johnson. His Johnson was showing up Magic. And then passing it on to Isaiah Ezekiel Thomas. He passed the torch on with the Boule kiss, the same way Madonna passed the torch with her kiss. The same way Baby passed the torch with his kiss to Lil Wayne. Upside your brain. So hip hop has not been newly infiltrated. It was infiltrated from the very beginning. By the time it was instated, it was infiltrated. Some people call it, some people say there was a Project Sedgwick. Well, let's not forget Will Smith. If I get to everything on this page, it'd be a miracle. It's gonna be a miracle, Stephanie. Okay. I'm gonna need some help. I might have to call Ron from New York. But no. Oh boy. But yeah, Brother Ron, holla at me, brother. But yes, okay, sorry about that. Okay, 1 second. I am live on the air. As soon as I am done taping, I will call you, but I do not suggest saying anything more about it at this point until I get a chance to talk to her, which will be in a little while. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. You know, I have to put out fires on you know, on the other side of the screen too sometimes, and that's just part of ministry. It's a real deal, Holyfield. But I wanted to bring this to you guys. It just really came to me this morning, amidst other things that I got to get under control. One more thing. Lord have mercy. Don't panic now. This is a family issue, and we've got it. As a matter of fact, God's got it. He's taking care of this because we've prayed, and we have to believe what we prayed and just be patient now for everything to work out in the spirit. And we'll see the manifestations in the physical. But if we get fearful, we have lost the battle. So don't fear. I'm going to call her very soon. I'm going to see her even sooner. Okay? And I'll call you as soon as I'm done. Okay. Have mercy. I'm sorry, y'all. My apologies. How come you don't edit that out? Ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway, so let's go down through it. Project Sedgwick is what some people said was the project that was used to infiltrate the Black Spades, which was a Bronx gang, a gang dominating the Bronx, and especially prominent and prevalent, obviously, in the South Bronx. Sedgwick Ave, I had a chance to see Sedgwick Ave when I went to New York with my good friend DJ Dez, who went to school, high school, in Harlem. And when he came to Detroit, he brought some things to the Detroit hip-hop community that would qualify him for legend status without a doubt. And he said that he would grant me an interview, and we're gonna get that up maybe next. But I really don't want to deal with rap and hip-hop too much more. I want this to be the knockout. I want this to be the 13-round, 10-ounce, knock them down, drag them out, end of this thing. And that's for Black Dot or Professor Griff or anybody else, or even Elder Lewis or anybody else's take to be added to this, and for this to be the end of it all. That would be my hope, because there are bigger fish to fry. There really are bigger fish to fry. So I love you. I love you all, and this is done out of love, because again, we're talking about victims. We're talking about victims. I'm not damning or condemning anybody, because we're talking about victims of a Luciferian government-controlled program that people thought was a business. People think it's a music business, when in reality we're talking about a derivative of MK Ultra, which was Project Umbrella. Look it up. Look these things up. Okay, Project Umbrella was a derivative of MK Ultra. MK Ultra was the mind control Ultra program that was developed using Nazi scientists who were brought in via Project Paperclip after the Nazis were quote unquote defeated, in another Hegelian dialect, because it was one secret society appearing to oppose another, when in reality they both are ruled by the same head entity. So that's part of the chessboard dynamic also. Two sides being appearing to oppose one another. The enemy mind analogy. The black with the reptilian opposing the white man who wants to reach the stars. And when in reality it's the same demonic energy and entity of spirit being causing the so-called rift between the two of them. The same thing you see in the long fight between Roddy Piper and Keith David in They Live. That's the same dialectic being displayed to you. You wonder, why was that fight scene so long? Was it because, well, because Roddy Piper's a wrestler and they wanted to showcase, he's a wrestler. So no, they wasn't trying to showcase his wrestling skills. Silly Billy. But he represented the Scottish Rite. And Keith David represented the Boule. And they had a long, contrived fight where in the end they end up saying, well, wait a minute. You ain't my enemy. No, and you ain't my enemy. It's him. And that's what needed to be seen. That there was a spirit being, an unseen being, that had them at odds against one another. But again, we see that dialectic, the Hegelian dialectic, over and over and over and over again. To what folks in the street would say, to pit both sides against the middle, you know, or to play both sides, you know, at the same time. The middle playing both sides is really what it is. So anyway, You had Africa Bambaataa, who was a leader in the Black Spades, they say. Gang leaders get brought into the Masonic Brotherhood. How does that happen? How? Going to jail. Putting in work. Being a part of the great work by default, because you're being used to kill your community off by way of chemical warfare. So therefore you're working for the government. I'll never have dinner with the president. So you get brought in officially once you're seen to be such a key cog, such a key pawn. They'll king you or knight you. And a lot of gang leaders took that opportunity, just as they do in the music business. Some people realize or are realized as great forces of destruction, great forces in building up Lucifer's system, great forces in that. And so they're honored because of it. They're given honor. They're given new status and new positions. Lucifer pays his people. So be cautious about desiring wealth, especially desiring swift wealth or easy money. They say that that's the key to having an evil eye. What is that? Psalms. Wait a minute. It is the key to having an evil eye. There's a Psalms. There's a Psalms to that effect. Oh, excuse me. Proverbs 28 and 22. Thank you. Thank you for this device. Proverbs 28 and 22. He who hasteneth to be rich has an evil eye. Again, thanks to Al Neal on Prophecy Club, who brought that to my attention. He who hasteneth to be rich, that means you want it fast, has an evil eye, meaning a spell. There's a spell on you or a demon in you if your eye is quote unquote evil. That's not a literal thing. All of you folks locked in a box of books, I'm telling you, being trapped in a box of books will make you dumber than a box of rocks. Be able to think outside the box of books. Be able to think using your Eurocentric and your Afrocentric thinking. Use your linear thinking and your cyclical thinking. Be able to think in circles and straight lines and squares. Don't be a square. Square business. That's Masonic talk. Masonic talk was all through the 5% Nation as the 5% Nation took over from the Zulu Nation. The Zulu Nation was infiltrated by the CIA by way of Project Umbrella. Project Umbrella was the project to bring, under the umbrella of MK Ultra, to bring music forms in as forms of mind control and behavior modification. There had to be music forms because music forms spoke to different demographics. So for white folks, they had Barry Manilow and different ones. No, they had AC/DC and Alice Cooper and Kiss, and the black version of Kiss was Parliament Funkadelic. Tell me it wasn't. Jamming. Secondly, from out of each demographic, you could pull certain artists who represented the demographic and have them make music specifically to modify the behavior of said demographic and send them back in. So what better place to get them from the street for real than from the street for real? It's not new that rappers was coming from the street. It's just new that now they are admitting it and wearing it on their sleeve, which is a deep thing on some levels, because people that really live a thug life don't want to. Pop gave y'all the impression, and when I say y'all, I'm talking about the young folks who don't peep game. He gave y'all the impression that thug life was what time it was. It was something sweet, some glamorous, or some way to rebel against the system. Thugians were a band of Hindu gypsies slash magic men who used spells oftentimes to thieve and take from people. They didn't just steal from people, but they used spells to keep their victims unawares. So we're talking about today's thug being obvious in front of your very eyes, trying to look like a thug, trying to look like a Thugian magic man with magic writings all over their bodies, with symbols of witchcraft all over their bodies, whether it be the double cross of Masonic origin, the double cross, the Masonic double cross, which you see in the claws of the Anheuser-Busch bird, but also in the Horus that Kanye wears, in the Ankh that I've seen Wesley Snipes rocking on the original Queen Latifah show. And yeah, I explained why I wear a cross in the other video. In the last dealing with healing video. I'm not going to spend more time on that right now, but it's a reminder to others more than it is to me that you can kick it with me regardless of how I look. We on same teams, and that's what that's to me, and that's it. You wear a uniform or a certain outfit, and it tells other people that you're a nurse, or that you're a doctor, or that you're the police. And that is to tell Christian folks who are our allies. When I say our allies, I mean those who follow the way. If you follow the way of Yeshua and you're a Christian, you down with me. If you follow the way of Yeshua and you call yourself something else, but you follow the way of Yeshua and the fact that he was the true and living risen, every tongue must confess that he was risen and that he came in the flesh. If you do that and you don't want to claim Christian, we still can roll. That's fine. I know Muslims who claim that, and they're closer to me and more of my brothers in battle than those who do not. Now, I'm not going to go further into that on this particular video, but I realize that there's an allies and there's enemy. If you have the same allies and we have the same enemy, we same teams. The enemy, the adversary, would like to try to group us in different groups. Oh, well, I'm a part of this gang, or I'm a part of that gang, I'm a part of this gang. Look at how they did the Crips and the different gangs in LA. Bloods that ain't Bloods, you know, but they Pyrus. And Crips that ain't Crips, or we Crips, but we battling with other Crips. And all of this is the same thing you find in religion. You know, we got the same enemy, we on teams. And my enemy is the Luciferians. Whether they be Zionist Luciferians, which is the Jew collective that have their part in the Illuminati, whether they be Boule Luciferians, which is the black collective, which I do feel a little bit more passionately about firing on because of the fact that they are of my own kind and culture, and so therefore they're a worse type of vulture. Or whether you are a part of the Scottish Rite, or you know, where you know that Lucifer is the god of this world, and you perpetrate the fraud and take advantage of us all. Black, white, Chinese man. Who made up them jokes? The black man, white man, Chinese man jokes. Who made them up? And anyway, I digress. To return to Burn. All right, let's get back into this thing, because some people really trying to learn, and other people get distracted by, well, what does he have on, and why does he do this? Why does he do that? Why is his head bald? Blah blah blah. My head is bald because I've not quite come to the. I'm not perfect, and I've not come to the comfortability that I need to be at about letting it grow and how I'm going to do it and all of that. I've had locks before. I don't want locks right now. I didn't like how that was going down. But again, what you like, you want to do as thou wilt. Oh. But this is what the Lord has me doing right now. And you know, not only for outward shallow reasons, but for some supernatural reasons that I will not divulge any further right now as well. But you know, you test the spirit by the spirit, and if my head being bald or me wearing a cross is enough for you to turn me off, then there's a button for that, and that's okay. I'm not here to preach to the choir or teach to the choir. I'm not here for backing up things that you've already heard and what you've already read and known. If you've already read it and you really know it and you really believe it, why are you here? You're here because you want to hear something different. You want to learn something different, or take another take, or see another perspective. And perhaps the perspective that I'm being downloaded by the Creator, which gives us all creativity, is one for this time. And that is what has been put on my mind. So I have to do the job that he tells me to. And I try my best to be obedient as much as a human being wrapped in flesh can be. And I really do. I try. Like Talib Kweli, I try. But anyway, so the Zulu Nation, okay, the Black Spades, by and large, made up a large part of the Zulu Nation, originated the Zulu Nation, if you will, because of Africa Bambaata's recruiting from his own gang, which was infiltrated by the CIA, the same way that Bobby Seale told Huey P. Newton when Huey P. Newton was infiltrated by Elaine Brown. You know, it could have been a fine female that got to Africa Bambaataa. Oftentimes, that's the best way to get to a man with an Ahab spirit, is to send him a Jezebel. But the Jezebel, Elaine Brown, was designed by CIA psychological operatives who designed her and trained her to be a false pro-black, black power sister, and to send her in and let her be able to be questioned, and she would know all her stuff. And he sent her in to Huey P. Newton, and she influenced Huey to accept dope, which she was getting from the government. And the dope was used to flood the Black Panthers, and the Black Panthers then disseminated the dope throughout the community. Some of this is exemplified in the movie Panther, some of it, but of course it's twisted so that you don't quite get it. But it's listed. If you pay attention and you listen things, you listen. Have mercy. But that's why I spelled like that. And you rearrange some of the words and listen, and you're going to get silent. Rearrange the letters. You have to be silent to listen, so you can start listing the things that you're hearing. Have mercy. You can't listen and talk at the same time. So anyway, I digress. The Zulu Nation was then used because they were infused. What were they infused with? Well, if you look at Credo Mutwa, a Zulu shaman from South Africa, a real Zulu shaman, who David Icke has done a lot of interviews with, and yes, we know David Icke is a questionable character. However, the Lord can speak to you through a donkey, and that even means a jackass. But David Icke has brought us the testimony of Credo Mutwa, who, when I watch him, is sincere. Even if he's being used by Icke or exploited by Icke, Icke is probably giving him liquor and dope and maybe boys, because Credo was a little, like Fred Sanford say. But Credo Mutwa appeared to tell the truth about a thing. And that's the best lie. There's some truth in it. So that's why you have to have some game. And more than game, you got to have your spirit. Test the spirit by the spirit. Study to show thyself approved. Showing so that you can be shown to be a workman who need not be ashamed. So you have to study, and you have to use your spirit. So that's two different things. You study with this flesh, hunk of flesh up under your skull. But you discern with your vibration energy, with the spark of God within you. That's what makes you vibrate and have life. And some of you have no Holy Spirit discernment, quote unquote. Oh, I hate that term. Oh. It makes you mad. Don't be mad at your grandmama and your mama. That's the root of that. But yes, it is. That's the root of that. That's why you hate to hear those terms, because you got an issue with your grandmama and your mama. Get over it. The issue is you. Got an issue in your tissue. But some of you have no ability to use the Holy Spirit to discern what's right and what's wrong. So therefore, everything that you learn or that comes across to you as being collegiately or scholastically accepted or academically accepted, you accept it. But you should accept everything except it. You believe everything that comes out of the box of books. Don't box with an ox when you're dumbing in a box of rocks. So you have to be able to, in order to really truly have intelligence, to really be able to have intelligence, you have to be able to tell from within. And that's understanding, which dominates overstanding. Some of you have overstanding and understanding, but you have no understanding. Some of you, my viewers, the members of this temple, as I like to say, because this is a church. I am a minister of the true and living Yah, Ahaya Yahweh. And most of you are pretty sharp. I mean it. Some of y'all are the sharpest knives in the drawer. On YouTube, I really believe it. And I'm blessed and honored and humbled to come before you. So let's move this lesson along. Wouldn't y'all hate to have my class? You would never get out of class. Y'all would be looking at the what? Are we going to get out early today? Nope. So in the Zulu nation, you had a strong reptilian vibration, because the Zulus have for a long time been at odds with the serpentine thing, the serpentine fire. And even Kreto Mutwa drew different depictions of that, but he's not the only one. But he helped bring to mind the Chatohuri, which is also called the Cthulhu in the H.G. Wells writings, also called the Nomos in the Dogon. Okay, you will also find them depicted on the Temple of Hathor in ancient Egypt. This was a serpentine being. Oh, all of them wasn't bad. You got one in you. Is it in you? Gatorade. It's in you. Get it out of you. In the name of Yahshua HaMashiach, B'Hashem HaMashiach Yahavashah. Right now, we touch and agree. Touch the screen. If you think it's a dream, if you think it's a game, get it up out of you. In the name of Jesus of Nazareth. Right now, in the name of Jesus, get it up out of you. Oh, he said, Jesus, I'm cutting it off. Bye. My name is Theodore. People call me Ted. They call me T. They call me Theo. All of these are derivatives of Theodore, though. Some people call me Jack. Some people still call me Jackknife. Some of them call me Unplug 'em. And guess what? If I hear somebody say any of them names, I got sense enough to turn around and see what you want. So you mean to tell me the Messiah don't? You mean to tell me that the Most High don't? Just say you don't believe it's one. You can't say you believe it's one and then be hung up on the name. Boy, you ain't got no type of game. 3G status. We on 4G these days. So anyhow, the Zulu nation brought forth this reptilian energy, which was about competition. If you remember the first breakdancing that you saw in Breakin' and Beach Street, it was competition. And they would tell you the lie. Oh, well, this keep the gangs from fighting. Well, let me tell you something. They was fighting and shooting and checking in shoes like a mug in Detroit during the height of these things. During the height of it. People, you know, I remember battling with somebody one time who was on the north end. I think I was in the 11th grade or 12th grade. Beat the dude so bad in the battle, you know, there was gunplay afterward. His side and my side. And they went on ahead and they had to ride. But, and that's, you know, nothing, that's nothing in which to have any pride. But it did happen. But my point is, the rapping and the breakdancing often led to scrapping, because you can't just throw youths who were already mistaught and miseducated into a situation of competition and expect for them to know how to properly compete. Brothers will fight at basketball games because they don't have what you're supposed to have before you play the game. Before you play the game, you're supposed to have wise counsel. It says wage war with wise counsel. Breakdancing was a war. Playing against another basketball team was a war. So they just grab some inner city youth and 10 of them and just throw them a ball. Excuse me. In the end, you're going to have a brawl. So you need a couch. Excuse me, a couch. You need a coach. Well, couch supports you. But you need a coach to give them the proper approach. They need a teacher, a preacher, a minister to help to keep them from being so sinister. And they didn't have that. You had the elder statesmen who were a part of the gangs oftentimes, and they wanted to see the young dogs get it on, you know, to scrap for control. It was part of power and control. Ancient kings would watch gladiators hash it out, and it made them feel powerful, that they could, that, you know, they had the power to cause two men to oppose each other. The Don King thing. And you found the same thing, and by the way, he was a criminal, but you found the same thing going on with the gangs. So unfortunately, it's not true. Don't like it when people lie to you, even if the lie is more comfortable than the truth. But it's not true that the breakdancing was used to help ease situations. Now somebody's going to give me some instance where they saw that it did. I can give you 10 where it didn't. Maybe it depends on where you was from. I don't know. But I saw many cases in which, and again, I'm not blaming the brothers as much as I'm blaming the others. And I don't mean the other race. I mean the other race that was in the place, that you could see all over their face. It was a certain continence that you had when you was really breakdancing, you was really getting it. It's a continence to come over your face. It's a spirit. The same way you see the brothers when they doing the stepping, that goofy, goober looking stuff, because they all have a certain continence that they're sharing. There's a spirit that they're sharing. And it comes over them all at the same time. And you can see it all on their face and make them think they're sweet. It's pride is part of it. Only part of it is pride. But there's other things going on also inside. But it comes from the reptilian brain. There's a part of the brain called the reptilian brain. And no, it's not up here. Although the uraeus of the pharaoh's headdress would give you some implication that there's something here. That, well, they call it the pineal gland, or the so-called third eye. But they say that the reptilian part of the brain is the part of the brain, you know, in the brain that causes you to want to be competitive, that causes you to care about your place and your rank. Remember, breaking was all about that, all about competition, your place and your rank. And that was a way to get that frame of thinking, the reptilian brain frame of thinking, from off the screen, from out of New York, spread to all ghettos all around. And as soon as a breakdance movie came out and came on, I mean, the commercials were so electrifying. And the songs, the music they was playing, and the scenes from the movie, oh, it was so sweet. It was sweet. It really wasn't sweet. It was bitter and hard and harsh. Harsh reality. But we called it sweet. That's doublethink. And we called it fresh, and it was not new. That's doublethink. We said whack was something that was not fresh. But whack is short for wacko, which means crazy. And so we was calling people that wasn't under this mind control, we was calling them crazy. But we was supposed to be fresh. Yeah, we was new. We was fresh, as in fresh like in the movie Fresh. You a freshman. Have mercy. You new to this. You a new jack. You ain't true to this. You new to this. Nothing you could do to this. Yes, we're going to get on some Big Daddy Kane too. Maybe. Does this have to be 2 parts? No, it don't have to be 2 parts. YouTube, but make it split in 2. So you just pause it and come back to it later. Go wash dishes or make you some din-din or do whatever you do. But don't make me have to split mines in 2. You come back to me. I'll be jamming just as hard when you return. But isn't it nice you can pause and come back? See? So I can just keep going and keep flowing. Because if I pause and do another one, I might not be in the same vein. Or rather, the Holy Spirit might not be in my mainframe. And I'm trying to keep it. Whew, have mercy. But see, I might get to doing something else and get infected by somebody else's goofy energy. And I'll come back and be game goofy goober myself. You won't want that. So we can't play around. You know, we got to keep going. We can't run. I'm not a runner. I don't play for UNLV and I don't play for nobody. But anyway, so you had the Zulu Nation infected by the spirit being, by the otherworldly being, the other dimensional being, we'll say, that they say resides on the 5th dimension. I knew a sister who was experimenting with salvia, and one of her friends went to that dimension and saw reptilians there, and they saw her in the room, the very room they were in. And when they saw her and recognized that she saw them, see that shows you demonic presence. When demonic presence knows that you've seen it, it acts. It might just act to let you know that it's seen it and just say something to you. You know, say something creepy to you. or it will attack. And what it did was it attacked her, and she said that they were raping her friend, and she lost some of her marbles because of it. So for those who don't believe that they're malevolent, call some up, and when you meet a nice one, you bring them on YouTube so we can all meet them. But they have a nature. Everything has a nature, and they have a particular nature, and their nature is aggressive, controlling. That's where you get that spirit from. Their nature is sneaky. That's why sneaky people, snaky. That's the word. Don't mess with me. You call people a snake. You ever handled a snake? You feel like you shouldn't be handling it when you're handling it. I handled one time. I just knew we wasn't supposed to be this close. He lunged at me. He was a little boy, a little garter, maybe about, I don't know, about so long. Yeah, about this long. Yeah, about that long. Real green, super green. Green as this cup. And I was handling him, you know, I was at the college. I was at Wayne State University, and in a dorm room visiting a lady friend, and her roommate had one. It's just a silly Billy. She was a silly Sally, and she had one because she was very enthralled with the frats and the sororities. So she had a particular spirit of wanting to belong and just wanting to do everything that she thought would just make people like her and gravitate to her. And so she, well, you know, that's what I did with hip hop, you know. But she had one, and I was handling it, you know. I was just testing my fear factor. She said, oh, she touching it. She a girl. So I said, let me see it. She gave it to me. I was letting it do its thing around my hand. I'm looking at it. I just felt my vibration change. Like, wait a minute. This is not supposed to be. And he felt it too. And he lunged like, I was like, whoa. I said, here, you take this. And she went on ahead and took it. But anyway, I digress. Lord have mercy. Somebody help me. So anyway, the Zulu Nation. So because they were on this dimensional thing, they went off into the other dimension. What the NASA astronauts were deceived into thinking was outer space. And you find a lot of those old joints, especially from Nucleus. Look at the Nucleus album cover and tell me they're not riding with a reptilian. A happy-looking dragon on the cover of Demon Attack by Activision. What kind of demon, what kind of outer space being were they depicting? A Tyrannosaurus Rex looking alien. Where does this come from? It comes from the fact that that's the real malevolent. And you know, people will say, well, it's an insectoid. Show me the proof. One thing that the enemy does is he have to see, for the game to be fair, for there not to be elitism, so that there is no respecter of persons. So I can't be smarter than you. All the same clues got to be left out here. It's part of the Luciferian dialectic. He has to, he has to show you that it's him, quote unquote him, whatever. He masquerades as a feminine energy and as masculine energy. But the point is, clues must be left. There are way more clues, and when I say clues, I mean not the breadcrumbs, the obvious breadcrumbs that are left, but you know, perhaps after we follow so many of these reptilian clues, we will find that the reptiles are directed by some sort of praying mantis beings or whatever. I remember X-Files touched on that there was a praying mantis being thing going on. But I believe that that's simply an analogy for the mind control that these ancient beings have mastered. They're not much talkers. They're whisperers. Nekash, whispering. So therefore they don't speak very loud or very much. But mind control is domination. And if domination is a reptilian trait, to be dominant is a reptilian trait. Jordan Dunk, with the tongue hanging out. Vince Carter, he used to do all that reptilian type of stuff and make them noises too on the Raptors. But if the reptilian trait is what makes one dominant, and mind control is part of domination, then we're talking about a reptilian agenda. And again, there's not enough evidence about the insectors. I had those toys too. Insectors. There were insectors. And in Men in Black, we do have some evidence of the insectors, the insectoids. And I do believe that that's a form of demon, because the creeping thing, the unclean thing, is represented in the movie Constantine by the insect beings as well. So I can deal with that. The insect beings or the reptilian beings are all just manifestations of the demonic entities, the fallen ones, taking the bodies that they've been relegated to. They are unable to be worthy of our bodies, which are in the image and likeness of the Most High Creator. So therefore, they must take a step down. They was busted down. They got their stripes snatched, and they are busted down to have to. They're relegated to have to live inside of lesser houses with lower vibrations, things that creep low, the creeping things, insects and snakes. Also your crabs and your lobsters, your pig. When Yeshua casted out the extra dimensional things, the legion from out of the man, he suffered them to go into the pork, the pig. That's me doing this, I'm sorry. To go into the pig to basically to die. And that's exemplified also in Fallen, how they went into the cat. Okay, cats are beings that were used to hunt and identify spirits from ancient Egypt, especially, which is where you get the witch's use of cats. The witch using the black cat, and the warlock Gargamel using the black cat Asriel in order to see the little blue beings, the little blue demons. And ironically, also during this same time where you had breakdancing and fat laces and check them in, was what they used to say in Detroit when they wanted your gym shoes. Thank goodness I never got checked in. I walked to school K through 12, and it was by the grace of God that I didn't get checked in, because a lot of people did. A lot of good people got checked in. And that meant that, you know, all that money your grandma spent on them red and black Pumas was going down the drain, and somebody else was finna enjoy them things. But yeah, they used to check you in. Lord have mercy. I forgot totally where I was going with that. I would like to look back and see where I was going, because I was finna go somewhere good. But anyway, that period of time, I told y'all I was gonna be going off the top of my head for this. I do have notes though. But that period of time, the 80s, you had the Smurfs. That's what I was gonna say. Praise Yah, the Smurfs. Okay, the Smurf thing was big in Detroit. I thought it was really strange. Dudes would call themselves, like when I heard 50 Cent homeboy call himself Bang'em Smurf, I wonder, is he from New York? Because if he's from New York, then that just goes to show you that there's a mentality that transcended geographic location. You know, demons can travel and they can send information one to another over the miles. They can only go from body to body. Excuse me. A short distance from body to body, a few blocks. But they can communicate over the miles. Prince of the power of the air. So for some, in the miles, 7 miles, 6 mile, 8 mile, you used to see a lot of Smurf graffiti, and dudes would call themselves something Smurf. You know, I'm Ronnie Smurf. Smurf Rock. You know, and they would draw this. And the favorite graffiti on walls in Detroit was "Get Paid" during this time. So there was a spirit of getting that dope money around the same time. And there was also the mischief spirit. That's what the Smurf thing was about. Fa la 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 la. And also empty-headed thing. It reminded me of Happy, that same type of deal. Ooh, that. hurts my head. But yeah, to think of the Smurf song. Fa la 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 la, which was fa la 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 la. Both of those things is kind of like dumb spirit, you know, inducing the dumb spirit. There's a dumb spirit too. You don't want the dumb spirit, dumb or ignorant spirit. But dudes will wear their hat a certain way. They'll smurf out the top of their hat, not just the skull cap. You can imagine how you could smurf out a skull cap. They'll roll it up like that. I mean, it'd be all the way up here, just barely sitting on top of their head, barely sitting on your head, and it'd be cocked over to the side, you know, a skull cap, and that's how you smurf out your skull cap. But then they smurf out the baseball caps, which by and large was snapbacks back then. And they didn't call them snapbacks, or we didn't know what we called them. That was just the baseball caps that you wore. They had the snap in the back. I remember when fitteds came out. And it's interesting, a fitted cap. Put you in mind of your Masonic mortarboard hat that they give you for graduation. It would fit all the way around. And it had to be the right size. I wonder what they put in the band on the inside of those hats. But yeah, the snapback. You know, you take your snapback and you'll bend around the rim of the top right there, and then it'll just sit right on top. Or you cock it ace deuce, but it'll just sit barely on top. If somebody do like that, it'll come off. But people would smurf out their hats, but that was evidence of the blue demon of the Smurf. And I'm talking about teenagers who shouldn't be looking at no Smurfs. It was a dance. It was the Smurf. You know, you do the Smurf. There was a New York Smurf. It was the California Smurf. It was the German Smurf. Oh, I digress. But no, I don't. Because this is the effect of hip-hop on people during that time. The things that we was doing. The dances that we was doing. The dances were, by and large, influenced by African dance. By the time we got to the native tongue era, it was really a lot of African dance going on. And, but prior to then, you had the Fila. You know, dances named after things that had the pagan symbols on them. The Fila symbol and the Nike symbol are too similar to not have similar or same meaning. Yes. The hats, of course, had the team names on them, which we know all derived from some sort of Masonic name or meaning. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix rises again. It's the Sunbird. Now isn't there a team now called the Thunderbird? But you had the Thunder and the Heat, you know, playing one against the other. You know, the Bulls, the Bacchus symbol for wine, women, and dance. The same thing they get the Taurus symbol from. The Celtics, which was Irish magic men. You can't make this stuff up. And I had a green. Yeah, and people didn't want green, but I wanted a starter jacket so bad. I took the style that people didn't. I took the color people didn't even want. If you was to have a Celtics jacket, and it should be Celtics, but everybody says Celtics. If you was to have a Celtics jacket, you had to have a white one, or white Yankees. Then you was cold. You might get checked in for your starter then. But yeah, I had me a green Celtics jacket. I was so pressed to have one. And didn't like the color green. Ironically, that's supposed to be the color for my sign. And I was forced to have the color that I did not like, which was the color for my sign, because I was so pressed to fit in. And hip-hop got me on that. You know, when we talk about our brothers and sisters that are caught up in the frats and the sororities, they didn't know that they was getting into what they got into. Same thing with the brotherhood member. Well, in some cases. Nowadays, you know. Nowadays, there's too much information out there for you not to know. Brothers that got into the 5% nation or they got into the Moorish nation, they did not know, or the NOI. They had no idea that they were getting into something that was a derivative or offshoot of the Brotherhood of the Masons. They had no idea that standing in your b-boy stance was part of a Masonic stance. They had no idea. They had no idea that the positioning of the feet was was standing on your square. We had no idea that when Tina Marie sang "Square, Square, Biz," and she busted a rap in that song, one of the freshest raps a white girl ever said. She said square biz because somebody, well, they said one of the engineers used to always say that, and she thought it was cool. But again, that is a Masonic term, and in Detroit, that was the slang term. And when people in hip hop in Detroit was looking for ways to identify themselves and to be uniquely Detroit, one thing that they came up with was to use that term, square biz, or square business, or what people say, squaw. And that was supposed to, oh yeah, we got something to identify ourselves with, like, you know, the West Coast say gank, or you know, like New York say son, you know, not knowing that in New York they call each other son and God, and all of this was part of the New Age Noir agenda, or the Boule belief agenda, the Boule belief system being infiltrated, or rather infiltrating the community, and the things that brothers said in the community who was not even in the Masonry. But that goes to show you that there is a move worldwide for all of us to accept the initiation. The Trayvon thing was a big initiation for everybody. When I saw Jennifer Granholm in her hood, and Jennifer Granholm was the governor of Michigan, and she's a plugged in lady, former beauty queen. Yep, look it up. And when I saw her on Fox News, Detroit, Fox News is always something to look twice at, because Fox is really one of the most saturated in mind control stations that you could watch. But when I saw her picture, she is sent in looking like a goofy goober with her hood on during the Trayvon thing, and I saw everybody putting on their hood to represent this brother. It's supposed to be from the hood, but really we're talking about a brotherhood. I thought secret society. That's what I thought. And then I happened to be researching with God Sis. What's up, sis? And we was looking up different things, and we ran across So What You Saying video. I think we was watching it for fun too. I called myself trying to run too. I was really trying to run. When I first got hit with the songwriter secret, I was trying to run. I ran to every kind of style and genre I could look for. I ran to instrumental and got hit upside the head with Mr. Magic. Boop. And Summer Madness. Cuckoo, cuckoo. And Winter Sadness. Mind Control. And so I just, I quit running. But I ran to the golden era. And I'm glad that some people had wanted some question about the golden era. So we've already looked at the root. You already have filled in parts that I didn't went off and told side stories about. You've already filled them in because we laid the foundation, and that's the root. The root is the Zulu Nation, Bambaataa in the Bronx, which according to brother Minister Ron, he had turned me on to the fact that the Bronx was used as kind of like a dumping area. And it, you know, when you saw the Bronx on TV and in Beach Street, stuff like that, it was a distinct difference between the Bronx and between Manhattan. And that was part of that juxtaposition of two different opposites, the Hegelian dialect, making one desire the middle, which is where they want you at in the first place. So the Bronx, I'm from the Bronx, Blastmaster KRS-One, proving that my job ain't done until I get some more. No need to roar or yell, because I can still, but anyway, KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions, you know, they came from out of the Bronx, we're told, you know, but then my understanding is that he was really born in Brooklyn and then moved to the Bronx. But I know that that happens in New York, so, you know, it's no big deal, my understanding. But the Bronx was supposed to have been a real bad area. It was a bad area of Detroit that they called the Bronx. Yeah, they did. And you know, you wasn't supposed to go around there. I think it was off Puritan area. But anyway, they said that because of the bad reputation of the Bronx. So from out of the Bronx came hip-hop. And you'll have people that'll tell you all the good side. And that's okay. Let them tell you that side. You need that 360. You need that whole picture. Then you need the other 360. Then you're well-rounded. Then you got 720, honey. And you can deal with the whole thing. Then you can deal with the real. When you got the whole picture, you can deal with the real. What sense is it only knowing the good side of your mate when you're getting ready to get with somebody? Everybody put their best foot forward. Chris Rock said they're going to send you their representative. Everything's going to be lovely if you let them tell it. So you have people who want to tell it from the nostalgic side, and really from a nostalgic point of view. And that ain't really right. That should not be that way. Because if we're going to tell it, let's tell it all. Let's tell it right. So Unplug 'em is trying to do that for you tonight. Well, it ain't nighttime to me, but it's nighttime to somebody. Ham biggity burger. All right. Ain't gonna play no games. Okay, so from the Zulu Nation and from that era, bringing drugs into the community by way of community organizations, came the technique by the elite of bringing drugs into the community by way of gangs in the street, and then by way of hip-hop rappers to make it complete. The rapper, what was inside the rapper? Well, it might have been a key of cocaine inside the rapper. They was called MCs, Masters of Ceremony, which is another Masonic derivative, like Show and Prove. A lot of the things that we said, standing on your b-boy stance, all of that. They would see the 5% brothers and like how they was crewed up, having your crew, having your posse, all of that. They would see that and they would say, well, you know, part of that comes from, you know, just ganging up. But again, the gangs, in order to infiltrate the gangs properly, the gangs were brought into the understanding of the secret societies. Where do you think gang writing, and somebody chime in on this, where do you think gang writing got all of the occult symbology from? The brotherhoods. The brotherhoods bring in, you ain't got to bring the whole gang in. They probably didn't want to do that. It was probably too scary. But you bring the leader in. You get the leader, you put him off to the side. How can you put him off to the side? Well, he probably going to go to jail. Or there were divisions of the police whose job it was to bring in a dude of some lead and some influence, sauce him up, give him the game, send him back out to the gang. Nowadays they call them hip-hop cops. That's where you get Rick Ross from. And what Rick Ross say he doing? I'm selling dope straight off the iPhone. Rick Ross is creating a army of young people who think that selling dope is what time it is and what's up. People used to try to hide that. Because to tell on yourself is snitching too. They call that dry snitching. To tell on yourself or to tell without trying to tell. To tell just because you got a big mouth. But really snitching is snitching. And there is such a thing as snitching. You know, there are things you should tell and things you should share. In order, you know, if you care. But there's also a way of trying to trade yourself for somebody else. And that's not right. That's not right. If you do the crime, do the time. You know. So my fair city of Detroit has gotten the bad name and the bad rap from some other cities that call it Detroit snitch again. Because you have a lot of people who want to get in the game. They want to do the crime, but they don't want to do the time. You know, if you step into that game in that arena, know that that's a possible consequence, and keep your mouth shut and deal with it, or else you ain't real with it. You know, be about it or be without it. Get out of it. Be a square. Interesting time. People would say be a square. My old dude used to say, you know, He used to call cigarettes squares. We said, why you call them squares? He said, well, because if you was cool, you smoke joints. That's part of it. But how did being a square, okay, that tells me how cigarettes got to be called squares. But how did being a nerd get to be called being a square? Come on. Because the brothers who would join the fraternities would get better jobs and better positions. And they were called squares. They were standing on their square. They were square men about square business. Y'all ain't trying to hear me. So anyway, we jump from that. Of course, you know, look at the Planet Rock video. I've said it before. Look at the Planet Rock video again with new eyes. Look at the gear that Afrika Bambaataa and them got on. So I think that we've got Afrika Bambaataa out the way. So now we're just gonna zoom through the rest. Once the foundation is laid, we ain't gotta do so much explaining. What's understood ain't got to be explained. So they brought in the Aquarian Age, black style. Okay, they took what Parliament Funkadelic was doing. Go back and look at the P-Funk video, and then some of this will make more sense to you too. They took what P-Funk was supposed to do, the Boule directive that was given to George and them. The same directive was given to Afrika Bambaataa. And Afrika Bambaataa's son ended up producing Ice-T, and Ice-T ended up going from cop killer to a killer cop on Law and Order, a show that come on 1,000,000 times a day to help to promote the fact that the police can do whatever they need to do to control you, to solve the crime, to get the bad guy. They might have to do whatever they got to do. Deep. So anyway, yeah, and Ice-T was used to help bring a double-minded thing about being a pimp and a player, but having knowledge, or being a pimp and a player and a dope man, but no, not really a dope man. I'm your pusher. You know, really, I'm talking about rap as drugs. We thought, oh, that's sweet. He's comparing rap to drugs. That's sweet, huh? It was a double-minded. It was a double whammy. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. The scripture talks about a double tongue and a double heart. Project Janus duality in full effect. Oh, this is heavyweight Jan. Put up your dukes. Project Janus duality in full effect. I got some Project Janus papers here for you. What's Project Janus? You need to look at some more videos before you come to this one. You saw hip hop and you, oh boy, hip hop. Project Janus, the duality, polar opposites, the twins, creating a new you by confusing the true you with a number 2 you. They create another you, a double you. A double you. Interesting. Can you read that? Any of you guys want to read? Let's all read aloud. No, just kidding. Oh boy. Every once in a while somebody got to smile. Can't have no fun. You guys are no fun at all. Okay, that's a whole other teaching. Maybe I'll do that next. And maybe I'll have to deal with what Brother C-Mart wanted done. Maybe that has to be next too. Because this is going to take too long. We're at 1:30 already. We're at 1:30 already. Okay, now I lost my page. Have mercy this evening. Somebody help me. Okay, here we go. So yeah, so the W was created through hip hop. Too. Everybody had a code name. I'm Turbo. I'm Ozone. You know, I'm B-Boy X. I'm so and so. I'm this. I'm that. You know, even KRS-One had one. He was a king of duality. 9mm. Wah da da dang. Wah da 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 dang. Listen to my 9mm go bang. You know, then turn around and call himself Knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. Then said, don't want to talk about a battle because it really ain't worth it. I'd rather point a pistol at your head and try to burst it. Get. I'm teaching poetry. Huh? Oh, yeah, that's hard. Duality. Double-mindedness. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And arrested development, making young people want to stay young, childish, goofy, and free. Man, do as thou wilt. Game goofy goobers to me. Now you got brothers that's 40, 50 years old still wearing gym shoes, still wearing baseball caps, wanting to identify with the new music and all of that type of stuff. And yes, because I went through the school of hip hop, because it was really a school to indoctrinate you. That's why they gave Karis One government money to have his temple of hip hop, because it's a way to indoctrinate you into a crawling and do as thou wilt, and away from the true and living supreme being outside of yourself. But see, hip hop was to make, you were to make yourself a god, the same way that they teach in the Masonic orders, that that's the true alchemy. Not to turn base metals to gold, but to turn you to God. Take the L out. Remove the L. Remove the Lord. L meaning Lord. Take the L out of gold. So to turn you into God. So you have from the Zulu nation came the reign of the 5% nation. Brand Nubians. Big Daddy Kane. Cool G Rap. Eric B. and Rakim. Well, I did a whole video on that, and I touched on some of these things. I won't touch on them again. If you want more filling in, go back to that video. That's how we're going to do that. And yeah, these things were so ingrained into us. What the devil made for bad, God turned around for good. Meaning, some people, they say, well, what do I do with my record collection? Do I throw it all away? If you're not going to teach with it or learn with it, burn with it. Burn it up. And watch the spirits come out the fire. It might freak you out, but in the name of Ahaya, that might be what you have to do. But I would much rather, if you have an extensive collection and you really understand music and the force of music, then it's something that you need to spread and teach to others and share with others. Most definitely, we are. And, it's so ingrained in the brain. I went to a wedding reception, and I listened to some of the tunes, and it took me back down memory lane, like Minnie Riperton, who was another sacrifice, and gave her and her husband, who was also in the business, part of her group at one time, gave their child, Maya Rudolph, gave her up to the business, and she grew up in the business too. But anyway, I digress. I be digressing, don't I? Is that a word? But anyway, it's so ingrained in the brain. I heard some songs and it made me think back about this and that and where I was and blah, blah, blah. It truly is a force, of course. And where, the famous Mr. H, and where can you make use of that? How can you ever get rid of it all? You can get rid of it all in the physical, but it's all going to remain in the mental. So, we know the covers have spells on them. We know that many of the covers have demonic images and whatnot. Some people will so idolize their music collection and their gods of music, they'll post up the covers. And look at those covers. Look at them again. Look at them twice. Some of them ain't so nice. I remember my 2 Live Crew covers used to really put me in a certain, make me feel some type of way. And it wasn't good, because it wasn't of God. But, so these things have been ingrained in the brain, stained in the membrane of the brain, insane in the membrane, these things were used to make us think crazy was something good, or going crazy was something good. Just doing your own thing was something good. You were your own God. They were used to give you certain philosophies, even good times, which Sugar Hill Gang used for a hip to the hippie to the. So these things were used to create a spell. And a spell works when you're ignorant of it. Once you're knowledgeable that a person is trying to put a spell on you, they are nullified from being able to do so. Especially when you are in the right spirit, the Ruach. Nothing can be done. Who Yah bless, none can curse. And if you're in the Ruach, then Yah has blessed you. You've been blessed. And you cannot be cursed. So, you want to be aware. Sometimes awareness of the enemy means you have to revisit and analyze his weaponry. The first thing that the Almighty had me do when he revealed songwriting secrets to me was to go through the songs. He had me to prove him, you know, not to mock him, not to make light of him, not to test him in that negative sense. But he says to try him, you know, to give him his word back and see if it don't return as he said. His word cannot return to him as void. The Almighty, that is. We know. You know what I'm saying. What's understood ain't got to be explained every video, every time. Can we just talk and have a conversation? Mind to mind. But my point is, well, what's the meaning of is? Is it a he? Is it a she? Is it a... The point is, the Creator may have you actually go back and re-examine those things and re-examine what you was jamming so that you won't be a illuminist, meaning only you know and you keep it for yourself to your own advantage. Everybody don't want to hear it, so it ain't for everybody to hear, but some people do, and they have the right to get a clue. So you should share with those who want to share with you. And you have many people that you listen to music with and who shared your love of music and who you used to play jams with and whatnot. And don't those same people deserve to know what's really going on beneath the surface of the thing? So for some of you, that's why you've learned the songs. That's why you know the songs forward and backward. That's why you have so many album covers. So that, and you know, maybe it's not for you to do on YouTube, but do you have sisters and brothers? Do you have a church community or neighborhood? Do you have a building that you live in, as in an apartment building? Set up something. Is there a rec room there or some kind of community center? Set up something. This is something people will find this as fun. You know, you can even keep certain religious phrases and whatnot to a minimum, and you can show this to a person that's not so much of a believer, and they will definitely see a behavior modification control, a behavior modification and mind control agenda in this thing if they look. And that's if they look in any form of music, especially if they look without the bondage of nostalgia. And I say bondage because nostalgia keeps you from, you know, when you're so close to a thing, sentimental value is held behind a thing. You can have sentimental value around a piece of toilet paper you blew your nose on. Well, this is when I was crying because Keisha left me. And you're going to keep that thing in your shirt pocket and keep that shirt in your closet forever and ever. And it's nothing but garbage. But you can't part with it. And that's how a lot of people will be affected with the teaching on hip-hop that we're doing today, and with other things that we may reveal and things that I may be led to say. And that's okay, because that's something that through time and patience, having patience for the patience, the Creator wills that you don't be bound or held trapped, mentally trapped by anything, especially not something as unimportant as rap. See it for what it is. Then go back and say, well, you know what? Now I know what it is. It has no spell on me. I'm going to bump my Too Short record. Born to Mac. Did that affect the way that you saw females? Did that affect your game? The way you ran game to the ladies? What about 2 Live Crew? Did that affect you at all? All of these things were used to affect you, and they did. That was the goal. Everything. There's no form or style of hip-hop that was not used to affect you, some more than others. Then you got the Ghetto Boys, you got NWA. We have some obvious examples, but I know people wanted me to deal more with the not so obvious examples, and so that's what we're going to do today. As we've done a little bit anyway so far, I'm at the top of my page. I just want you to know that. So I'm gonna try to go to 2 and then be through. Have mercy. Somebody help me. But it's just time. It's time to look at things, to look at all things without the nostalgia, without the sentimental value, because that's how you can miss something. It's the same way some people do with their children. They can see what's wrong about a lot of things except when it's their children doing it. When it's their children doing it, they turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. So we're not going to do that here. Hip-hop is not your child. Hip-hop was a thing that you were brought to. Hip-hop was a thing that I was brought to. It helped to foster a spirit of rebellion in me. When I was 13, my mother was so afraid that something demonic was happening. That's what she told my Auntie Joyce, and my Auntie Joyce told me, said, don't tell your mama, but Auntie Joyce, rest in peace. This may help somebody. 13 is that time of rebellion. That's why in numerology, 13 is the number for rebellion. 13 is the number that the enemy uses to signify rebellion, and it's also the time for bar mitzvah, and it happens to be the time of coming out of childhood and into that cusp in between childhood and adulthood that they call puberty. And that's when the body begins to do new things, and the mind too. And that's one reason why also many people are demonically possessed, oppressed, and depressed around that time. Many young people have a hard time psychologically around that time. Well, 13 was the time where I went off to go and stay with Niecy Clark of the Clark sisters. God bless her, because she treated me so loving and showed me a Christian life. She was living it. She showed me what it was like to be saved, and she showed me, or she implanted in my mind, that Transformers was demonic, and I love Transformers, and G.I. Joe was demonic too. She wouldn't let me watch neither one because her children didn't watch it. And me and her son Larry Clark, we made my first demo at age 13 called The Cool Nerds. So I began rapping at 13, technically recording, and did about 8 songs or something. And he was like, this was surprisingly good. He said he had a copy of it or something at one time, but I mean, that's a million years. That's finna be what, 27 years ago, 28 years ago. But my point is, that's that time when, for a lot of us, we really took a hold to hip hop. For some of us in a certain age bracket, and for many of you around the time you were 13, whatever, hip hop's been going strong now for some time. What did Carlos want to say? No one's from the old school because rap is still a brand new school. I said no one's from the old school because rap on a whole isn't even 20 years old. 50 years down the line, we could start this. But so now hip hop is old. It's coming on 40 years. If you say that it started around the 70s, technically, people rapping and rhyming. But rap as we know it, we know it's got 30. It's got 30 years, easy. From 1980 to 2010, it's 30 years. So it's going on 40 years. Oh, and so for all of you, you can look back at when you were 13. Where was hip hop? What influence did it have on your mind and on your life during that very influential and delicate time of your development, the development of your spirit and of your mind? Okay, so we know it went from Zulu Nation to 5% Nation, and I did a whole thing on the 5% Nation, so we're just going to brush over that. We know that that's the gods in the earth today. So it is a way to teach you to be a god, and to teach you that you are God. The same thing that you find in the Luciferian belief system, just the black version. They sell it to you by way of black pride, the pride inside. The pride cometh before the fall. It was pride which caused Halal to stand up before them all and say, I'm 10 feet tall and I want to be as the Most High. And so that feeling runs throughout. If you know any brothers and sisters from the gods and earth, you know some of the things that I'm saying is true. Now, if you are a part, then that nostalgia or that sentimental value may be blinding and binding you. Be able to let go of a thing so you can look at what it is. How can you look at it when you got it? How can I see this? How can I see this properly if I got it like this? You got to let go of it. You got to sit it down on the table and look at it like that to see if it's stable. And if you really look at that thing, you'll realize it's too many things. Well, but that's because it come from us and us. So we was always good. That's what you're saying. Everything black is good. So if I tell you that Greek style homosexual sex come from us, what you gonna say about that? Did you know that Horus and Set? Did you know about Horus and Set? You ever read the book of Coming Forth by Day and by Night? Oh, well, they inserted that in there. What can you say about it? You can't heavyweight jam with me, baby. Your gloves is too light. Your hands ain't big enough. Your arms is too short to box with Yah. And Yah have me bumping my gums. Believe it. Get right or get left. Jump back and check yourself. So everything black, every time somebody tell you something come from us, that means it's good. Simple ones. How long will you love simplicity? If it was so good, why did it fall? How did some caveman bring it down to the ground? How did the Hyksos dynasty take over the gods? Because they were deceived. They were in a delusion, in an illusion. They thought they was something great. And when it came down to that handiwork, they didn't have it. Them beings left them and allowed for them to get dominated by some other beings. Said, well, now we didn't crash this car. Let's hop in this one. We crashed the black car. Let's hop in the white one. Now, and they've been riding in the white one now for so many thousands of years. Guess what? They done ran it into the wall. Nah, they back in the black one, y'all. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the last days. Have mercy. Whew. I know some of y'all is putting out your blunts in your ashtrays. You're like, wow. Man, blowing my high. I ain't trying to kill your vibe. I'm trying to fill your vibe. To fulfill it. Not to kill it. Not to take it away. So the Zulu Nation became, passed the torch, the hip-hop torch to the 5% Nation. And the Ansaru Allah, which was guided by Dr. York, King of New York, who was the teacher of Boule, Butt Liquor, Jay-Z. When you hear Jay-Z say, I never read the scrolls, with his voice, he got the voice of a fraternity fun boy. He sounds so unsure of himself, even with all the money and power that he's got to this day. Because once you're insecure, you're always insecure. Look at them fun boy frat dudes' faces. Very few of them was really that deal in high school, was really cool in school. Most of them was nerds, was picked on, clowned for even going to school maybe. They wasn't cool, but the frat gave them a sense of identity, that they cool now. Same thing that unfortunately, the 5% Nation and the Ansar Allah and the Nuwabian Nation have done for some. Now, a lot of brothers pick up on it while they're in the joint too, and that's a different thing. But for some, you find the same thing because you're talking about brotherhood. You find the same thing. This made me cool. I got a crew now. I got protection now. Join the frat, you join the gang, and you join the Nuwapian Nation or the 5% Nation for the same reasons. I didn't do that. God gave me something that I secretly desired, like all young people. I secretly desired, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be accepted, like all young people do. I'm not admonishing young people for having that desire. It's an internal thing, but it's very close to pride. It's a need, a desire to be accepted in a world that treats you differently. when you're peculiar or different or unique, when you're just unique, when you have your own way of thinking, where your own way of thinking is getting shaped around 13. So the powers of this world, the prince of the power of the air, the powers that be, the forces around you will conspire to make you feel some type of way and make you feel less than accepted. So you find something to get into. Now, I did find hip hop to get into. And maybe because I got into it early and really got deep into it, it helped me. But before that, I was voted things without trying to win hard and without running in some cases. I was voted class president in elementary school because I capped on somebody. I said something smart when we was having a question and answer section. And I wasn't trying to be that smart, but this mouth, I said something people took as a cap. I was really being sincere. They said, somebody stood up. I remember her name, Ray Niece. I love you, Ray Niece. She's on my Facebook. She'll never see this. But she said, I gave my platform. I was reading. My platform was to bring hot lunches to Bagley School. And I said, well, you know, we're going to bring hot lunches, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go meet with the board and this, that, and the third. You know, some teachers was helping me write my thing. And it was me and a couple other people. It was a girl that was more popular and everything. I wasn't popular. I was chubby. My clothes wasn't up to par. You know, my mama kept me decent and all that stuff, but she wasn't buying into, you know, the fee laws and things you had to have at that time. I didn't have none of that until I started working, about 15, 16. But this girl, Rainey, stood up and said, well, how do you know that all the things that you said is really gonna happen? What if they don't happen? And I said, and I was being just as sincere, and I said, well, I doubt very seriously if it doesn't happen the way I said. And everybody, ooh, he beasted, ooh, children. But it was God, because that at that moment, that helped. God was putting a mantle on me, saying that you're going to be a leader. Then fast forward to high school, they did the mock election. I got voted class leader. I didn't even run. But because I walked around there like Professor X, and, you know, I had my freaky shirts on. That's what we called them. When you was dressing like the Jungle Brothers with them type of floral pattern shirts or whatnot, they used to call them your freaky shirts. Stupid. But I used to walk around with my beads on and my freaky shirts and my, you know, my asymmetric high top haircuts and Africa cut in the back of my head or something. And, you know, I always dropping knowledge and looking serious. And so they voted me class leader in my yearbook. But I digress. So, but I say all that to say, leaders are born, not made. The Brotherhood's agenda is to create a pretender and make them a contender, to turn people into leaders, to allow for people who would not normally be alpha to be alpha, to allow for people who would not normally have status and control and influence to have status and control and influence. They create these gangs and things. And it's a way to take away God's natural order of things. We have to remember the God, oh, he said God. The Most High's natural order of things. The enemy, the adversary's job is to make disorder, to bring order out of chaos. So the chaos have to be created. So he creates a chaos by destroying the natural order, putting black and white in the wrong order, putting male and female in the wrong order, putting dominant and recessive in the wrong order, putting everything in the wrong order, and doing the, you know, putting animals where people should be and people where animals should be. All of these things are setting this planet out of order, and that is the goal of the adversary. And so hip-hop was a huge part of that, because it pushed the rebellion game, the rebellion spirit. 13 representing rebellion. You know, a lot of us took to it at that age. You really start to taking to it because it feeds that rebellion spirit. The rebel lion, which goes to and fro like a roaring lion, seeking for whom he may devour. So that's the rebel lion, rebellion. Yeah. So Dr. York did his thing. He was the highest black Mason down south, so I can imagine that he was the man up north in New York. So many of the raps that we heard used words that he, in the scrolls, which was the name of the books that he wrote, you know, which he didn't always write the books, but between him and the CIA, they compiled these books. Yeah, I said it. They compiled these books that covered a wide range of subjects, most of which were Boulay approved subjects that gave me insight into the root of what Parliament Funkadelic was talking about, into the root of what Africa Bambaataa and them was talking about, into the root of what Nucleus was talking about brothers being from outer space. And he had that teaching laid out in these books in a black form, in a way to bring the hood into it. And he used the truth mixed with the lie. He told you a lot about the Illuminati. He told you a lot about secret societies. He even said in the book 2001 and What to Expect, he made it very clear that the ruler was Jabulon of these secret societies, which was a combination of Yah and Baal and On, a sun god, On star. Star, the sun is a star. But and that's a throw off. That's overplay for the underlay. The ruler is Lucifer to them, but Jabulon will, okay, we can say that's one of his names to hide who he is and to confuse you as to who he is, because they put Jah on there to really confuse you. They didn't say Yah-Bulan. You notice that? Certain things they can't do. They can't break certain rules. Thank God. Those are the real universal laws. Not just the laws of, oh, well, you know, the laws of attraction and the law of magnetism and you know, this law and that law or whatever. I can't even think of them right now, but you know, I know those laws. But duality and different laws. The real law, excuse me, the real law is you're under the Most High, or by default, you're under the adversary. Because the adversary is given dominion over all things that are not of the Most High. Why? Why is he given dominion? We'll deal with that. We'll deal with that. But so Dr. York's scrolls made it through all around New York, and also made it through the other ghettos. I was reading them. That's what he called his books. There was books with a lot of tabloid type stuff in there, but a lot of good information too. That's the first place I saw anything about a clone, or the first place I saw that there would be a neutrinoid agenda that would slowly take from out of your mind any relationship to nationality. Dr. York at one time was a real deal Holyfield, and he ended up getting recruited into the mind control program. I am confident of that. I had a friend, well, I have a friend whose father got a hold of York in the late 60s, early 70s while he was in jail. He got a hold of some of his books before they were tainted. He kept some, and I had the good blessing of seeing some of those books and really having an understanding that the devil wants you when you're good and you're 100. Then he will infiltrate you. The devil could not create Dr. York. The Most High created Dr. York. And then the devil tempted him. He went for it, and he got infiltrated. And that's how that goes. And he's been working for the enemy ever since. Perhaps he's repented while he's behind bars. But up to the part where he takes children to the Epcot Center, or attempts to take them anywhere involving Disney, he's still a culprit. Because he said himself in the books, in many books, that Disney was a mind control program, so why would you be taking children there? So because he said that in a great many books, because he did that, he said that in a great many books, that, you know, Disney was mind control and blah blah blah. Why would you take the children there? He was taking children to the Epcot Center. He admitted it. And that was a way for those of us who weren't game goofy and who weren't tied up with nostalgia or sentimental value about something that we felt personally about. It was a way for us to have it revealed to us. Those things that are in the darkness must come to the light. Nothing is hidden except that it should be revealed. That was where it had to be revealed to us that, hey, Dr. York was part of the mind control program too. And I understand it now. He did what he was supposed to do. He helped to spread that philosophy throughout young people. And when hip-hoppers was brought to him, he was to give them that game. He was to bring them in to the boule through that way, through that avenue, through that doorway. And he did. He did a great job. He brought a great many in. You better believe it. That teaching that he had, and now some of the claims that he had, now make more sense. He claimed a lot of things. He claimed to be descended from a new, and all kind of things of that nature. Look him up, Dr. Malachi Z. York. And like I said to y'all in another video, go back and look at the 5%, the Rakim video, and then I won't have to reiterate some things. But yes, so Dr. York played his part, and it was his teachings and the 5% Nation's teachings that you found in the era that was ran by Big Daddy and Rakim. Then after Big Daddy and Rakim had established themselves, you had EPMD come on the scene, which was another level of the same brotherhood, but taken to this next level. What was PMD? PMD was a football star who belonged to a frat. SCSU! You always wonder, why is he saying that? But was it just his dedication to his college? No. It was his dedication to his frat. Please believe that. How can we prove it? Look at the So What You're Saying video, where you've got them, the brothers wearing the hood, standing up against the wall in the line. Same stuff you saw in, if you didn't see it nowhere else, you saw it in School Days. You saw the same stuff in School Days. They stand up against the wall in a frat line. They're all the same and similar. They all look like some insecure dudes who got their self-esteem from being a part of the in crowd. In the in crowd, like you find whenever you look at frats. If you look at them with your third eye, if you look at their continents, look at them like they do in iridology. Look at the sickness in their face. Look at them and you see it. I know you see it because I saw it. So what you're saying, PMD was the man. He drive a Corvette, I drive a Samurai Suzuki. A Samurai Suzuki was nowhere on the level of a vet. And if you notice, E-Double was always doing a big up thing to PMD. PMD was obviously the money man and the man with the connections. Please listen to my demo. And why did he have those connections? Because he was a part of the frat. He was in it already. E-Double was not. E-Double was more from the hood, and one of them used the other. E-Double used PMD because PMD was plugged in, and PMD used E-Double because E-Double had that hood line that PMD would have lost simply by going all the way to SCSU, going to school there. He needed some sort of lifeline to connect to the hood, and that was E-Double or the PMD. E-Double finally went in, and when he finally went in, consider the Headbangers video too. But when E-Double finally went in, business, always business. Square Business should have been one of their albums. When E-Double finally went in, he got the rights to the Divided Souls music, which no one had scored that big. And I wondered, how did he score that big? The Green-Eyed Bandit, and how they talk about their eyes being green. All our eyes are green. Kanye says that in that song where he talks about the Illuminati and people's what he calls rumors of him being in the Illuminati. They addressed that on one of the songs on that last album he did. The one with the with him and 2 Chainz and all of that, and Big Sean, that song. I can't think of the name of that song. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway, he makes a reference to, and all our eyes are green. in the hook. And the hook is very telling if you want to find out something about these guys' agenda. Their hooks are becoming more and more telling. From Versace, 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 which really seem to be simple. The devil is doing a thing now. The snake is eating big chunks of his tail. When you see the snake with the tail in his mouth, it's to show you what a real, true Luciferian has an understanding of. That is, in the end, we're going to destroy ourselves. But we're going to have a ball before we do it. So the snake with the tail in his mouth, we're doing a job. We're helping to set things up, set up total chaos, no mass confusion, by eating ourselves up, eating up our own businesses, destroying our own world trade centers, destroying our own civilization and culture that we built so hard, destroying our own industrial age so that we can bring in a new age, a computer age, a robot age, computer age by nucleus. Let's look, E Double, when he finally did go in, if you remember hearing about him stealing from PMD and different things of that nature, and then also around that same time, some sort of issue where he supposedly jumped out a window too. That's the big red ritual. You heard about the rapper who cut off his penis and then jumped out a window too, but he didn't kill himself. He was trying to kill himself, right? First of all, after you do that to yourself, you just about would kill yourself. The self-preservation instinct would keep you from being able to do that. You'd have to be so gone off drugs, and then even then, I don't know if you could really do that to yourself. And okay, so let's say you do that to yourself, and you don't lay there and bleed to death in pain and agony. You're actually able to get up and walk, throw yourself out a window. Nah, I don't believe it. I'm no game goofy goober. I can't believe that. So that's part of the big red, the gum. But that's part of the big red ritual, which is representative of the Scottish Rite, which is where they really teach you the truth. They take you to the Scottish Rite, and then you end up knowing that Lucifer is the god that they serve and worship. The red and the blue. The Red Lodge and the Blue Lodge. The Bloods, who was Wilder, and the Crips. If you check out the Bloods and Crips old rap tape, I remember my homeboy telling me, my dog Harry Hair, rest in peace, I remember him telling me, yeah man, I said I like the blue side better. He said, well man, I like the red side better. It's like, because they more off the chain. Don't you notice they more off the chain? And that's what I did not like about the red side. I thought the blue side had better music to it. The red side was wilder. Well, when you have that spirit, you're a step up in the Luciferian game. So you're a step up in that spirit. Reminds me of Pac when he walked out of that meeting with the Red Wings jersey on and the red bandana tied around his neck. And he was full of a spirit when he hopped in that Hummer and dug off. So we've got this era. Also from the Bronx, Ultramagnetic MCs, very influential group, had some fresh beats, some fresh music. But you also had Kool Keith and Ultra MC, Ultra, what? Mind control, ultra, magnetic. So we're talking about mind control in the early days, going way back to the early days of 75 and the Black Spades. Just Ice. First dude I ever seen with a grill. He's from the Bronx. Okay. KRS-One, Scholar Rock. Again, one more thing on that. Someone had told me, I believe it was an uncle of mine, had said when we was talking about Boogie Down Productions, he was like, Boogie Down Productions? I said, that's an old group from the 70s. I said, no, Boogie Down Productions, that's KRS-One and Scholar Rock. He's like, no, that's an old group from the 70s. I didn't know nothing about it. But Scholar Rock, if you remember, I remember all the album covers for some time. was all saying on the back when you read the long line of notes, because I would read them to see who's down with who. That would help determine which one to buy next. So I would see on the back of a whole bunch of them for some time. Scott LaRock, rest in peace, Scott LaRock. KRS-One would say, Scott LaRock, he's in here. He almost was in a denial about Scott LaRock being gone for some time, it would appear. But there was a sense of necromancy in all of that. And then even further, you know, they implicate D Nice, who is now supposedly involved in some sort of homosexual triangle or relationship involving Maxwell. But yeah, that's right, D Nice. My name is D Nice. Him. Look it up. Look it up. Just look it up. I don't feel like it. But D Nice supposedly was the catalyst that set it off. He was supposedly seeing some girl, and it was beef there, and he calls up his boys, Scott LaRock and KRS-One, and Scott LaRock comes to try to squash it, and he ends up getting shot. That's what we're told. And then I remember hearing people say MC Shan shot Scott LaRock, and you know, there were rumors, a lot of rumors back then, especially when you lived in Detroit and you heard everything second and third hand. But because of the drug game involvement of Detroit and the prominence of the Detroit Young Boys Incorporated, which was the youngest dope gang ever to make history and make noise in the nation, talking about 13 and 14-year-olds. Yeah. You heard a lot of things. I remember hearing that Eric B had a baby by somebody on the east side of Detroit, and that ended up being true because I ended up meeting her now that she's grown. It was something like people said, but not exactly. That's usually how rumors are. Something like people said, but not exactly. But yeah, that's his stepdaughter. But so we heard a lot of things about the Scott LaRock incident. But one thing that I'm sold on is that was hip-hop's first well-known blood sacrifice. And for some reason I'm thinking about the train tracks in Beach Street. And did we see some things in Beach Street, which was the more Masonic of the two, between breaking and Beach Street. Breaking was more lightweight jamming than Beach Street. Beach Street was deep, and I would really have to go back and look at Beach Street and Wild Style, which is Wild Style. Again, do as thou wilt, to create a lunacy, bugging out, bug, you know, going crazy. And it was about making us go crazy, losing our mind up in here. That's right. Little princess, you hit that right on the head. So we got all of that together. Let's see. In bugging out, and in Kool Keith being so bugged out. Was that an early reference to insectoid or praying mantis style mind control? KRS-One. There was a lot of duality and double think in KRS-One's music. Just look at him now. Now, of course, he's been made the head of the Temple of Hip Hop, where they teach the New Age agenda, noir. Not even so noir. He's really straight up humanist. You know, where that's a way to profess that you don't believe in a supreme being. You don't believe in a creator. Okay. So now we're at the bottom of the page, and we're gonna cut this off after this, and then I'm gonna hit these questions. Hopefully we can answer them quickly, like in 10 minutes. Okay, so now we move from the 5% Nation to the native tongue or the Afrocentric era, the Jungle Brothers and Tribe Called Quest era. Then after that we've got gangster rap, and there's so much on gangster rap that I'm not going to go into gangster rap. You don't need me to do that. That's been done already. A lot of people have done that. And you can just, in your mind, think and go down through Boys in the Hood and Hollywood and how it went from one coast to the other coast, duality. Coast to coast action, duality. With Pac and Big, coast to coast action, both of them really coming from New York. All of this coming from Dr. York and New York, the York Rite. You have the York Rite and the Scottish Rite. The York Rite is supposed to be the lightweight jam, the blue lodge. But you got to go through the blue to end up red. You have to have blue blood before you have red blood. The blue precedes the red. Take the red pill or the blue pill. The blue pill, you can stay here in La La Land and you can believe what we want you to believe. And the red pill, we're going to take it to that next level. So the red is where they take it to the next level. They turn it up like the Bloods. They turn it up. Blood sacrifice. And they turn it up and they go into letting you know that Lucifer is what they call their God. And that's why they can say, I thank God and whatnot. So in the native tongue era, we have another way of professing godlessness. It's just me, myself, and I with De La Soul. I know I've seen people that broke down the video and showed you the videos. Go back and look at the videos. Go back and listen to the songs. Listen to them without the blinders of nostalgia and sentimental value, shading and shaping what you should normally see. So again, the native tongues or the Afrocentric era, meaning something was wrong. You got the Jungle Brothers, who were a big part of that as well, from and of the Zulu Nation, and Africa, who was the lead of the Jungle Brothers, and he had a short-lived film career where he started looking kind of Swedish too in those films. Come on, let's deal with some things. Well, they gave him the Huey Newton treatment. When Huey first got out of jail, they said to Huey, you know, you're such a handsome dude. This is what they said in a letter. And he admitted that they said it. He didn't go for it the first time, but he went for it by the time they got in with Elaine Brown. But he told this. He said they sent him a letter that said, you know, we'll put you in Hollywood. We would love to put you in the movies, but your activities, your political activities, they would have to stop in order for us to put you in our movies. You know, we don't want to be affiliated with your political views. So those would have to stop. But we'll put you in the movies if you stop with the politics. That's basically that. So they did the same thing with Africa from the Jungle Brothers. Jungle Brothers, on the run. And I used to, I knew behind the bush. Interesting. Behind the bush. But I knew behind the bush so well from beginning to end. I would say that I remember saying that to a girl, Monica Walton, saying that to her from beginning to end, and lying and saying it was my rap. You know, it was a rap that you're supposed to say to a lady type of deal. But behind the bush, straight out the jungle. Dun, 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 dun. I thought it was good. It was relating us back to Africa. But see, we can't be game goofy goobers. You can't only see the part that's good and not see the other part. That makes you half blind. You got to see the whole thing. 360 degrees one way and 360 degrees the other way. Let me see all of what's good about it, and then let me make sure I see all of what's bad about it. Now I've seen the whole thing. 720. Well-rounded. Not squared. Have mercy. So, from the Jungle Brothers, which of course the Jungle Brothers were of the Zulu Nation. So you have the same spirit moving from one body of people to the next body of people, moving the same agenda. You have the same New Age agenda that Parliament was pushing, given to the Zulu Nation in Africa Bambaataa. You have the same agenda that the Zulu Nation in Africa Bambaataa was pushing, and that they even spread to the West Coast by way of Ice-T and his son, Africa Islam. So it was generational curse. That same agenda that Africa Bambaataa carried, he carried on to the native tongue. They took the torch and they ran with it the next way. And Q-Tip mind is fried. If y'all have ever noticed, it's fried. You don't know if he's Muslim. You know, he was really struggling with this thing, like an Aries would do, much like Marvin Gaye did, who was also born under that sign, the sign of challenging, wanting to challenge. And so he wanted to challenge this thing. I do believe that wholeheartedly. His lyrics, the ambiguity and double-mindedness in his lyrics would show that. And of course, that particular sign is said to rule the mind. And he was the leader of that movement. And of course, Aries is said to be a leader sign. So Q-Tip was the leader of that movement. Although people would say Jerobi did this and blah, 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 whatever. He was the leader of that movement. Ironically, one of my fallen comrades and contemporaries, Jay Dilla, was recruited from Detroit to help to give the sonic energy, the supernatural sonic energy to that movement, a renewal from the jazz, because he was influenced, like we all were, in the consciousness community, in the conscious rap community in Detroit, which I was a habitual line stepper, like Charlie Murphy said about Rick James. But no, I rolled with it was a side that you would call, I guess, the more street one, the more street rappers in Detroit, and then there was a side that we called the backpackers. And I walked the line. It's one reason why Proof respected my mind, because he saw me walk the line, and he saw how I saw the best of both worlds, and perhaps too he was seeing something else, something supernatural. But Dilla was brought in around the what album was that? Electric Relaxation? No, the next album after that. He was brought in for Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And he did a lot of those joints on there. Looking back, suddenly. That's Dilla's style. And Dilla was a member of the Order of Divine Reality in Detroit. Proof was a member of the Order of Divine Reality in Detroit. And Batin of Slum Village. All three, rest in peace, peace be upon them all, were all members of the Order of Divine Reality, which was a derivative of Dr. York's beliefs and teachings, just Detroitified, the Detroit base, if you will, to catch up the consciousness community. Some of us who consider ourselves conscious, we've become a little arrogant and lazy and silly and game goofy, to where we think that because we're not drinking malt liquor, and because we don't succumb to crack, and because we don't listen to gangster rap, we're free from mind control. No, no, no. You have stepped into an arena. Step up, step up, step up. You have stepped into a whole new arena of mind control. And yes, I remember now. The sister wanted me to deal with Gangstar, and Gangstar's name's not even on here. But we're in the right area for Gangstar. We move forward from the 5% Nation. Also, we have Gangstar, who was using that imagery big time and copying Rakim's pattern, and I don't mean rhyme pattern, but I mean his personality pattern as a 5% leader in hip-hop. Gangstar did that same thing. Even for DJ Premier's song, DJ Premier's In Deep Concentration, he used Rakim's voice. And I could see very well back then when I saw people were influenced by other people. MC Rail and the House Rockers, MC Rail and Maestro Fresh West were both too influenced by Rakim. Rakim was so influential. And I saw certain aspects of that in Gangstar, in Guru's monotone delivery, which Rakim did to make him sound like he ain't no joke. But I don't digress. We still in the same hookup. So Gangstar, leaders of the new school, a tribe called Quest, UMCs, Fushnikins, De La Soul, the whole Native Tongue family, which birthed Busta Rhymes, who also had Dilla produce some joints for him. The Hoo Ha remix is ridiculous. But these all came from out of the belief system of the 5% Nation or the Zulu Nation. They would all say that they were still tied into the Zulu Nation to this day. Why is it when they would be rap beef, who would they go to squash the beef? Who would come squash the beef? You have Minister Farrakhan, Boule. Maybe Chavez, Boule. Maybe Messy Jesse, Boule. And then Africa Bambaataa, Boule, as we just showed and proved. By way of MK Ultra through Project Umbrella / Project Sedgwick Ave. Through the Black Spades infiltration by the CIA. Like all pro-black gangs was infiltrated in the same manner as the Black Panthers, whom they were all inspired by. I think we did that. So without having to go through all of the songs, you go through the songs. Y'all know the songs. Y'all see I know the songs too. But the foundation was laid, I hope. to where you can make the rest of the connections now. We've gone 2:30 in. I challenge you to post up things on this page. Put some things up, ideas, questions, answers more than anything, because I know you've got some answers now. I know that this was the foundation that was necessary for you to see everything else. So the Tribe Called Quest movement, now again, I'm showing you the dark side. Don't hit me with a million comments about the light side. All you got to do is go look at We Got the Jazz and read, and you'll see the light side comments. Oh, this was when hip hop was pure. Oh, this was when, see, nobody can say this was when there was no mind control agenda. There was a mind control agenda. The devil has a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is the alpha plan, the alpha male, the alpha, let me go aggressively at you. A for aggression. Plan B for BSing. Plan B is the feminine. Well, let me step lightly, peck lightly, like a woodpecker with a headache. So they snuck in some things through Plan B. First, they snuck in a foundation using the guise of Afrocentricity, positive black African stuff. I remember walking up to my grandma, coming in the house with my beads on and my Air Jesus sandals and my twists or something, and looking like a member of a gangster version of the Jungle Brothers. I said, Grandma, we from Africa. She said, I ain't from no Africa, I'm from Tennessee. And I couldn't understand why she resisting this. She black, she supposed to feel this too. It was the pride. Pride is still one of the 7 deadlies. How do you not feel good about yourself and not have pride? Easy. I just feel good about myself because of what the Creator made me. Not because of what I am. Not because of my skin color. Not because I'm a suave and debonair looking brother with a chipped tooth. Not because I'm smart or because I've got skills and talents. All of those things are nothing and nowhere. And I wouldn't have any of them things if the Creator didn't allow me to. In an instance, I could lose any of those things I named. Don't think that money is the reason that you're something too, because you can lose that too. I don't have none of that to lose. But all of the things that a person thinks is within them to be proud of, you can lose those. Don't be proud of yourself. Be proud. If you're going to be proud of something, be proud of the Creator. That the Creator could choose and use something as lowly and jammed up as you. That's how I feel about it. I'm humbled that He can use me. After all the ways the enemy tried to confuse me, He can still use me because there was something with which He infused me. And I'm glad that it's still in there. It's something I could never lose, see? And it's that spark of the Creator. You can't sell your soul, but you can let something in. And once that something has been let in and it sits in for so long, you will lose a sense of yourself. And you'll be nothing but a memory, like an old favorite song. So you hold tight to that which you have already. Hold tight to your faith, to your belief system. Hold tight to a belief system that there's something greater than you, because you will fail. You failed yesterday. You failed 10 minutes ago. You failed at something. You left the coffee pot on too long. You failed. But I'm talking about something that's infallible, meaning cannot fail. That is a Creator, an almighty, true and living, all-knowing, all-powerful, omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresent, all-encompassing, everywhere. And that being don't fail. And there's a spark of that being within you. And it's coming into contact with that spark, which you have to bow yourself and your ego and your belief in who you think you are and what you've made yourself up to be, and your Facebook name and your rap name and your singing name and your nickname and your gang name and your frat brother name, your line name. All those things, you have to drop them down to the ground. Maybe even your God-given name, if you take pride in that. What if your name is Athena? Or what if your name is Theo? Or Theos? You cannot allow for any of those things to open up portals to let in immortals. I am nothing and no one. I say that as a practice to remind me, because I might look sometime and think otherwise, which is some other lies. Yes, we come from the motherland, and no, the motherland not all bad. And aspects of society that were used to create racism and racialism and prejudice were also the same aspects that were used to push us into thinking that it was all good. So therefore we're missing the other 360. We're only seeing one side, the light side, the side we want to see, the right side. My phone is fooling. I should tell you something. It's cutting off and on every couple minutes because we in it. We in the spirit, and the spirit is in us. Ruach HaKodesh is in us right now, because we can see the light now. We've come out of a space that was too tight now. We're loose. Now we can see it and understand what's its true use. So you look at this thing. You know, you look at your music now with another eye, with a true overstanding and an understanding. And when you listen to it, it will not have the same effect on you again, my friend, my kin. Listen to it again, and listen to it with an overstanding that there's an agenda, a constant agenda. Like George Clinton said, mind your wants, because there's someone that wants your mind. And the second that you forget that, you become spiritually blind. So do your very best to seek the things that are out there for you to find. But when you turn a blind eye or a deaf ear, you're unable to see, and too ignorant to hear. So now is the time, and this is the year. We've gone too long in the same old song. And the enemy is weak, but Ahaya is strong. Now, after the influx of the Black Pride era, Public Enemy followed and took the whole 5% nation to native tongue thing to the next level. Public Enemy took it to a rebel level. The rebel without a pause. I'm lowering my level. They took it to the next level. I'm lowering my level. And if you didn't get his readings and writings and didn't understand that he was a member of the Brotherhood and had to have been, I remember wondering, well, how did Chuck D get so smart? How do you know who Chesimard is? Supporter of Chesimard, loud and proud, kicking live next port, supreme, looper, troop, bazooka, the scheme, flavor, a rebel in his own mind. Supporter of my rhymes designed to scatter a line of suckers who says I do crime. They on my time, dig it. That song and that beat, oh, it just, with the backward James Brown horn, and the repetition of that, it just gave me a headache. That was my favorite song. When you're in the same spirit as you was when you was a boy, that'll still be your favorite song. But when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So right now, Most High, Ahaya Yahweh, we ask right now that you remove from us any negative influence. Touch and agree with me. Remove from us any negative influence that has sat in, walked in, and stayed in from listening to the music that we enjoyed as children, as young people. Let us be able to see through the enemy's tricks. Let no form of blackcraft, witchcraft, voodoo, Vodun, Shango, or any other African witchcraft have any hold over us, especially those of us who share that ancestry, and even especially those who do not. We all need deliverance from this same demonic spirit force, which is not African in origin, but of another dimension. Demon Zion. Heavenly Father, send this thing back to the demon Zion, back to the dimension that it comes from. Let it out of us. Let out of us the spell cast by the talking drum. Let it no longer be able to talk to us. The 808 hum, whatever was encoded in that, Father. Remove these things from our subconscious mind and from our conscious mind. Guide us out of the place that we were once in when we were young and defenseless and did not know any better. Guide us out of the spell cast by those who did not know any better, but cast spells through hip-hop music. Release us, Heavenly Father, from the powers of digital magic, which was used in studios and equipment that we recorded on and that we listened to music that was recorded upon. Remove from us any of the influences of sonic magic, of Aerosmith magic, the smith or the shaper, the former of the air, the prince of the power of the air. Let his assignment in our mind be nullified and canceled, made null and void and of no effect right now. Remove from us any remnant from that error that they call the golden era, where they tried to alchemically change us from man to gold, or gold without L, without the Lord, God. Remove from us any negative influence from the dances that we danced, the clothes that we wore, our gym shoes and our sneakers. Let the thing that tried to sneak us be bound up and cast out, brought to the light, and cast away from us, far from our minds, from our thoughts, from our hearing, and from our sight. Also, Father, remove from our speech each thing that came from the things that the unclean thing wanted the unknowing rappers to teach and to preach. Remove from us any negative philosophies, any Crowleyan philosophies wrapped in good beats. And Father, we just want to thank you, Ahaya Abba. We want to thank you right now. I am eternal love. Ahaya, Ahava, Yahavaha. We thank you for doing what you said that you would do, and for protecting your children, making sure that no weapon formed against us would prosper in any way, shape, or form. Remove from us the demon spirits of rebellion and pride and lust that many of those songs put inside of us. And we do all things in the name of your true and risen Lord of Lords and King of Kings, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Nazarene. We touch and we agree that you have so done this thing, and we call it done in the name of your Son. It is so. Selah. Amen and amen. So now, real quickly, for Brother C. Mark, we're going to do this one. Here's some questions that I feel that many have, and I'm going to try to answer them before we get to 3. I believe this is going to be the longest one to date, and I won't be doing this again, not this long. This is too much. This is too much. But I do appreciate your bearing witness and praying with me and listening and allowing us all to be unbound and unfettered by the things that have had us in chains. Here we go. Okay, get ready. maybe we need to do a whole jam session on this all by itself. But okay, let me just see how the Lord leads me right now. Well, this will set up the next video. Can we do it that way? Okay, we got 18 minutes. Okay. The brother says, there's nothing wrong with you having a reminder. You know, you should not need a reminder. So as something that's a source of power, excuse me, you may lose it. It may be taken from you. And if you put your power in something that you could lose or that can be taken from you, then you're putting a magic spell on your own self. But if you use it as a reminder to yourself and more so to others, to signify, you know, it's like a badge. When I lay down and go to sleep, I may take it off, put it on the table. But there's nothing wrong with having that reminder to show other people, hey, I'm of this kind, or I'm friendly with these people, with this group. You know, like people wear their gang flag, I suppose. But you know, it's because I'm not your conventional minister. I have to do something to show conventional ministers that we're on the same teams. So that's why I do that. But anyway, also, can you do a heavyweight jam session on the Exodus slavery passages? Well, I think Curse One said it best. In those days, black Egyptians weren't right, and they weren't white either. They enslaved black Israelites. Moses had to be of the black race because he spent 40 years in Pharaoh's place. He passed as the Pharaoh's grandson, so he had to look just like him. Yes, my brothers and sisters, take this here song, go correct what's wrong. But anyway, yes, the Exodus slave passages, all I want to say derives from Egypt. The tainting was brought to Egypt by another being. That being tainted the rulership of Egypt. Not all of the people. But guess who the rulership has power and dominion over? All of the people. Some of the people rebelled in the good sense. Rab El, teacher of El. Some of them rebelled and became teachers of the Lord, realizing that there was a true and living. Some of this you can find kind of in the story of Akhenaten in some respects, but the way of many gods pulled the wool over the eyes of all of the rulership, but not all of the people, and not all of the rulership forever. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And so those who crossed over, that's where you get the term Hebrew, really means ibri, to cross over. So those who crossed over were the ones who peeped game, and they left from out of Egypt, and they created this new thing. And that's what Exodus is really about. Exit us. We exited. Simple. Maybe too simple. Let's go to the next one though. If there's more, I'm sure we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. As so led. As you're so led, but I believe that you got that. I just really do. Okay, so let's move forward. Got 15 minutes, and that's okay. It's not such a time is not such a big issue to me if it's not a big issue to you. And I know so many of you have said that it's not. But I'm trying to respect the fact that I know people have lives. They got things to do. Okay, number 2. Also, I'm having a trouble with the basics. Example, free will. We don't give our children free will because we know they will do something stupid. So why give us free will and make us so weak and easily tempted by the devil, so to speak, simultaneously? Okay, because you do give your children free will to a certain extent and to a certain degree, because otherwise they'd be robots. We're not to be like the ant, part of making us like the Creator, in the image and likeness of the Creator, is so that we can have creative will. We can have will to, I can sing and draw, and you can write and rap. And so we can have creative will to manifest different aspects of the Creator, who brought everything into existence by his will. So for us to be in the image and likeness of, we had to have a will too. Now that will is tested because we are not the supreme creator. Our will has to be tested in order for us to truly have a choice. How could you have a choice between serving Yah and serving evil if there was no evil to serve? There's a difference between good and bad and holy and evil. Two different concepts, as different as scalding hot and freezing cold is scalding hot and freezing cold are both temperatures. Holy and evil are not the same thing, as freezing hot and scalding cold are both the same thing. They're both temperatures, or the way that the temperature of something is. Holy and evil are not the or holy and evil are not the same concept as good and bad. Good and bad are relative. What I can say is good, you can say is bad, and you can be as right as I am. You can say peanut butter tastes good, I can say peanut butter tastes bad. And nobody's right. But if a being stand here, if a malevolent being stands here, you and I both will feel the vibration of evil, or the vibration of Elo. Elohim, or Elo, backward being holy. We'll feel the malevolence versus the benevolence. Bena is in benefit, and mal is in malo for evil in Spanish. So you have to have the choice. In order to make a choice, you have to have two choices, at least, to make a choice. So because he created us in his image and likeness, which was his good pleasure to do, he is a creator of infinite choice. So we too, as baby G's, as little creators, we too have infinite, or we have choices in certain matters. So that's why. And the tempting is a testing. How do you know something is strong unless you test it? It's not to confuse us. People say, well, how would a good God allow for a baby to step off a curb and get hit by a bus? His ways are higher than our ways. Well, that's not satisfactory to somebody. But okay, for somebody, Jeremiah 55 and 7 through 10. 7 through 11 come to mind. But for some, that won't be sufficient. So let's break it down a little bit more. Because in the infinite wisdom of the Creator, that baby's death may save that baby from molestation. In the infinite wisdom of the Creator, that baby's death may cause that mother to finally get off crack, which she was in the house smoking when her baby walked across the street. Because that baby has not had a chance to live its life yet, the Lord may allow that to happen so that a greater good, maybe that woman in the house who has lived her life and has an effect on 7 other children, a brother, a mother, and a sister, and all of this. Maybe now she can do good that will affect 10, 20 people by that one incident being allowed by the Creator. And that's tough stuff. But that proves that, first of all, don't you want the Creator to be higher? I want the Creator to think higher than I can think. Some of y'all don't want that. You really have a desire, you have a God complex, and you have a desire to be a higher. You want to be higher than a higher. You have a desire to control things. It's a control spirit, spirit of control. And you want to control everything. And you cannot give the slightest bit of control to something that's greater than you, that created and gave you a soul. You can't give the slightest bit of control to something that has a better destiny for you than what you could cut for yourself. And I'm not talking about you, see, but there are people that's like that. I can tell that you are a believer that has some questions, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with it at all. As a matter of fact, it's intelligent. Pardon me, it's intelligent to have questions. So, but for some who cannot swallow that there is a creator, let alone question why he does things, the fact that you question why he does things shows me that you can swallow that there is a creator. That's the first step. The fear of Yah is the beginning of wisdom. So that is a evidence of wisdom. So nothing wrong with it at all, see, Mark. Nothing wrong. But secondly, okay, so why give us free will and make us so weak and easily tempted by the devil, so to speak, simultaneously? Okay, now, the weakness part, weak and easily tempted. It is to teach us how to be better. You want your dog to be better. It goes from not knowing where to take number one and number two to being able to roll over and speak and give me paw. So how then do we become better? If we're already made in the image and likeness of the Most High, we would be perfect. And again, there would be no reason for us to have a free will if we were perfect. We have to experience this thing. Some say too that the Creator makes us as little cameras to experience the many different choices that an infinite Creator has. So we have infinite choices. Even the wicked, they say, are made for the day of destruction. The Quran says that Allah maketh the believer and the unbeliever. And Allah is only a derivative of the word Elo. So get off that a lot, because that is a lot of mess that was given to you by way of academia, and I do not trust it. I'm sorry. But you would have to do an extensive study of Islam, studying both from within and without, before you could say anything about it out of your mouth. And I've done that. But that's not what this video is for. So, but I say that to say that both sides are created by the will of the Creator, because all things must be expressed for you to have choices as a baby G made in the image and likeness. And as a G, I don't mean a goober. So made in the image and the likeness, we have to have choice, and we have to be able to be better, make ourselves better, improve. So how can you improve on something that's made in the image and likeness of God? Well, you wrap it in flesh, which is a filter, a soul filter. Flesh is used to counteract the fact that you have a perfect spark of spirit within you, so that you're not God. You're wrapped in the flesh, and you're given the ability to perfect your flesh. You are. We can, as long as we're in the flesh, there's going to be something, but we can cut it down, narrow it down, narrow it down, narrow it down, which it can be a lifetime worth of work, so that by the time that the flesh has decayed and come to no more effect, no more good use, when it's ready to drop down and be done, then your soul has done the proper elevating, exercising, uplifting. There's another word I'm looking for. Training is not exactly it, but your soul has been properly prepared to go back, excuse me, to be a part of the state of perfection from whence it came. But it has to battle with and dominate the thing that it's trapped in. And that's part of our experience of living. And it's not a painful thing unless that's the perspective that we're taking. And that's a perspective that the accuser would like to get us all in from time to time, that really we're a loser. And that's a lie. That's why he's called the accuser. The accuser of our brethren has been cast down. It was done so by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony. And again, okay, let's keep going. Okay, the Garden of Eden story, which is some parts literal and some parts allegory. The Garden of Eden story. Why would a loving being put an evil tree and serpent or whatever it was in a paradise with an honestly vulnerable couple? Okay. 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 Some people say that that's cruel, and be careful, because this is where you get the gap band. Just like Adam and Eve said, you set me free. You took me to the sky. I've never been so high. You dropped a bomb on me. They're gonna drop a bomb on you in a minute. No, no, they're not. No, they're not. But okay, okay. See, in Luciferianism, they get this belief system that, well, God lied and Lucifer told the truth. What he did to them was unfair. It wasn't right. Blah blah blah. No, it was just right, because he knew what it would take to shape them into what they would need to be shaped into. He knew just the right test that they needed to take, and that was but a test. It was a test of their free will. And the difference between the Illuminati or Lucifer and God is that the Illuminati forces you to. God does not. The eternal, true, and living does not want to force you. You have the choice to make, to either listen to him or not to listen to him. But to not listen to him brings you consequences, because his desire is that none should perish. Although all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, his desire is that none of us should perish. Okay? But as to make it right, if you do wrong to others here on this planet while you're here in existence, and you can get away with it, you know, people do wrong and get away with it here. So what's to make a true and living God fair? The fact that you can't get away from it in the end. So there has to be a punishment at the end. For that very reason, for those people. Not for good people like you and I who are trying and struggling and striving. When Pastor Porkchop teaches that, which he don't teach too often, because Pastor Porkchop don't want you to even think about the punishment part. But when you hear ministers and pastors teach that part, they're using it as a fear tactic to try and make you something. And again, God is not controlling like he's portrayed to be. Even when he is firm, like a father has to be sometimes. If you're a father, you know that. Sometimes you have to be firm. And sometimes you can be graceful, merciful. And be careful of the Luciferian twists in the game. They put a lot of Luciferian twists in this. A lot of them. So there's a time for that firmness and that punishment, that correction. He will correct us before we end up in hell. You're not going to hell. I'm not going to hell. Hell is made for the wicked. Hell is made for people that, and believe me, people who will not repent. People who will not turn away from their wicked ways. That's what repent means. You know, everybody say, you know, people try to use the Christian get out of sin free card. They say, oh, well, Jesus died for my sins. I can do it again. No, you can't. You can't do it. He said, do not tempt the Lord thy God. I mean, don't play with him. Stay with him. So, those who have a sincere fight and challenge ahead of them, God is not in a box. He sees your challenge. He understands your weaknesses and your strengths. He gave them to you. That's different. He will make sure that in the end you win. We're talking about victims a lot of times when we call ourselves talking about perpetrators, you know, with the Illuminati. Anton LaVey on his deathbed said, oh no, I've done something very, very wrong. Aleister Crowley on his deathbed said, oh, I am perplexed. He might have been too arrogant to just go ahead and say, I made a mistake, I've done something wrong. So, and a lot of people that play Satanists really are atheists or agnostic, which is maybe worse. You know, you say you don't know. Well, I don't know. I guess atheist is worse because you claim you know. You know there is no God. You're atheist. Agnostic is, I don't really know. And that's a better position to be in, I suppose. So a lot of agnostics take Satan and say, well, disapprove it. I did that. I said, well, you know, I believe it's a creator. I said, but maybe we was tricked. Maybe Lucifer is the creator. Maybe we should call him that. And maybe we should do what we want to do and enjoy ourselves and blah, blah, blah. It feels better. I tried that. I tried it. So, you know, when y'all listening to me, know that you're talking to a brother with 720, not a triple G. But I tried things, and that's why I am where I am, you know. And I wouldn't suggest a person try everything if they can get wise counsel, or, you know, not that I'm wise, but if you can get counsel or guidance without trying it yourself, please do. Please do. You'll save yourself and your family and your loved ones a lot of heartache and a lot of confusion. So again, it was part of allowing for different realities to learn. Even the serpentine being was to learn. Even Hillel, or the angel Lucifer, was to learn. He had a desire to be as the Most High. And he said, well, you know what? I bet I can do it. So a lot of lessons are being taught by this experience that we're experiencing. And that is the ultimate thing that the Creator is a teacher. Experience is a good teacher. Mickey Howard. So he's allowing us to experience things in order to teach us. We have to go through this experience. And it's as green as it is red. It's as good as it is bad. It's really more good than it is bad. But the bad is red, and red is so much easier to see. You can have a little red on, and everybody will notice that little red that you've got on. But green is often overlooked, and there's pastures and fields of green. So people overlook the positive and accentuate the negative, unfortunately. And so we have to be careful about our perspective, our point of view. Your point of view, you know, will shade your reality a certain way, red or green. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. I hit something. Uh-oh. We lost it. Houston, we have a problem. Okay. It's archives. How do I get to my archives? Lord have mercy. I done messed up. I done messed up while I'm on the air. Somebody help me. Help me, help me, help me. Okay. Man, it's archived. Let me see. Let's see if the other one's in here. But, we over 3. Oh, okay. Please do a back to basics lesson on slavery, the Garden of Eden, burnt offerings, and animal sacrifice and things in the Bible that were condoned by God, that seem ungodly today. Okay, so maybe we talked about why must the innocent endure evil. Okay, why allow the rich and evil to continually prosper? Again, okay, the prosperity, the treasures of the wicked should be laid up for the righteous, which means that these things are only happening for a time. And it's also to prove that the things of material, things made of materials, are not dominant over things made of the spiritual. Again, many of the things that we see down here is to prove to us certain things that we can only have proven to us by experiencing them this way. And I have to take this call, so we will. Brother Mark. Hey. Okay. Yes, she is there. So about what time will you be getting there? So I'll know. Just give me a time. Just give me a time. Well, give me an approximate time. Can you? It's 2 o'clock. Can you say 4, 5? Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right. I'll be looking for you. I understand. I already understand that, Mark, but I can't stay right now because I'm live on the air doing something. So I already got that understood. Sharon will be there. I just needed to know what time. Okay, so about 3 o'clock. So I'll see you then. I already said yes, Mark. Yes, come on. You holding me up from? Oh, okay, I'll see you then. All right. Lord, mercy. Okay. All right. So, cause see, I want to try to get all of this finished right now. Undo. So yeah. Oh Lord. I can't find the conversation now. Lord have mercy. But anyway, y'all, these things have to happen, and this is the way that this experience was brought to us all. We have to see things this way. Can't even find it now. I'm gonna have to come back to that because I've lost it now. Jiving around with them. Asked me something 2 or 3 times. I said yes. Forgive me. Forgive me. But anyway, okay, burnt offerings. Okay, burnt offerings were done because, listen, put your money where your mouth is. Everybody can say, oh, well, you know, I believe in blah, blah, and this, that, and the third. There is a truth and a proof to tithing. There is a truth and a proof to giving to the poor. There is a truth and a proof to giving to ministries. There is a truth and a proof to supporting things that you know are helping other people. And when you do that, you're doing a big thing because it's costing you something. It's part of sacrifice. All the devil does is mirror something in a perverted way of what God has already done. So the Creator makes us have to sacrifice because just like the enemy, you know, you got to give something to get something in this world, and that's just the way that it is. So, and also to humble the rich. Sacrifices, before they had money, your cow was worth a lot of money. Your cow was a big thing. Your animal cost you some money. So in order to show and prove, you know, put your money where your mouth is type of deal, you had to give up something. And that's where the sacrifice really comes from. And then the spilling of the blood. That's a supernatural and metaphysical concept because the life of a thing is in the blood. And it also is a precursor to the fact that Jesus would spill his blood for us all down the line. So before the perfect sacrifice could come, our imperfect sacrifice of what we had to give. You know, I got an ox, I got some cows, that's money. So let me put that on the line, put my money where my mouth is. Well, what about for the poor? What about for people who didn't have things, blah, blah, blah. So, but we're talking about a one time of abundance where man had a certain nature. Man had a different nature. Man's nature was more cold-blooded and more harsh, and what do I have, what do you have? And which we're kind of returning to that. But when that nature ruled man, then in order to prove himself, man had to give up something from that wealth or abundance of things. He had to give up something. Well, fast forward to Yeshua. Yeshua was brought forth so that it was no longer what you had that you had to give up, because that could be manipulated. That system, people were trying to manipulate that system. So what, God didn't know? Yeah, yes, the Lord knew. But it was also for us nowadays to be able to look back and see a difference and recognize that today we are under grace as opposed to being under the law back then. And because people had to be under the law because of the nature of man and the youth of man. The way that you punish a toddler is different than the way that you punish a teenager. And man was in his toddler stage of development, and now man is in a higher, so to speak, conscious and state of development today. So there is a different way today than it was before. And it's okay. Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay. So again, the devil or evil is used to test. It's a tester. He has a job to do. Okay? He has a job. His job is to try us. Like you try gold in the fire. Like you try something in the fire to make sure that it's strong, that it's ready, that it's pure. You try it in the fire. And we are done in the same manner, in a similar manner. And no, we're not talking about alchemical stuff or alchemistry or alchemy. We're talking about why we have to be tried by an evil one. Why don't God just make everything bubblegum and flowers and give us all superpowers? What would be the purpose of existence? How would you even know you was existing then? We know we're existing because of the everyday struggle. We know we're existing because there is an adversary. We know we're existing and we have a reason. I have a reason for being because I know there's a fight. And the fight begins with insight and excite. There's a fight within. I got to fight myself, fight my skin, fight my flesh, fight to stay sane, fight to stay focused. And then there's an excite. There is a fight outside, in my sight outside of me as well. And so there is both, and both make you better. Both are part of making you stronger. Why do you have to work out to get muscles? It's the same dynamic. You know, no pain, no gain. It's the way of things. It's the way life is set up. And it's a beautiful thing if you can embrace the challenge. Okay? Now, and it's not that the angelic beings all set up and said, well, let me, you know, they're being used as a means to an end. And the end is, all of these things are to help to show us that even those beings that were supposed to be greater and smarter and stronger or whatever, without the Creator, they ain't got nothing coming. And it's a way of showing us that lesson and that analogy. You know, why were your brothers and sisters created? In some cases, to show you what to do and what not to do. And the angelic realm was created for that same reason, for that same dynamic. You know, we're gonna, you know, I am gonna come back on this because I'm getting calls and whatnot. The afternoon is advancing, and I must advance with it as well. But I wanted to spend this time with y'all now while I was able to, and I thought we could knock both things out totally out the box. But I'm sure there's still more. There's still more questions, and so I still got more answers. But I need to pack up and get myself ready here for other action outside the cyber realm in the real world, as they say. Got the real world and the matrix. So I do thank you for joining me in this matrix, and I hope that some knowledge of self, and some knowledge of kind, and some knowledge of the divine was all shared in this time. And more than anything, I hope that some of the demons that hip hop might have brought to you were expelled from your mind. And we'll come back and do some more again next time. I thank you again. This is Unplug. I'm on the grind, putting everything on the line for Ahaya Yahabaha. It is so. Selah.